first time around. Like again, like the get second chance. To do things a little bit differently. So there's a lot of discussions with this. So like I said, the Gemara is not attempting to give us insight and give us a window, but at the end of the remember, it's always going to be the picture's always going to be
Shouted. Jamie.
So often the Hashem says, I caused definitely that way. Your worship then you saw the after the pain the after but maybe it means Hashem causes some people to die, other people to live. See today, Nachas Diva in the air, if I would enter a possible one that says Hashem says, literally, I broke and I will heal. Not okay, so for that, but just like break it's talking about the same person. Misa, the Taik in the airport. So to again, life and death is also in the same person. You can't choose all of the Kriyasanis in the Torah. And I want to say the series is a proof to Kriyasanis. In other words, I'm already there. Now Kriyasanis in the Torah. How do we know about resurrection of the dead from the Torah? I want to say this is fascinating because here, the Gemara is now quoting the passage from the Torah. Right, up until now, most of the Psukim, except that I cannot think of Hashem okay with no time for them. I don't know. So yes, it's that. Most of the Psukim, as you can see, are from Rabbi. How do we know they're from Rabbi? How do we know? Because we have no idea what they're talking about, right? So that's in the first Shiraya. The first Shiraya is from Rabbi. Right? So the Gemara says as follows. So now I have a passage from the Torah. Az Yashir Moshe Yisrael Shira Azos. So then, right? Then it says, then Moshe and Klal Yisrael will sin. Shar however, it doesn't say they son, right? It doesn't say as Shar Moshe and Yisrael. Moshe and Yisrael son the son, rather Yashir. Future tense. What's the future tense? Mikan L'Tchiasanis in the Torah. This is a proof that Tchiasanis. Proof that Tchiasanis. Right? Future tense, that word, there will be a time in the future that Moshe and Klal Yisrael will sin. He don't say the Torah, so they're not all right. As Yikra Yoshua Mizbeach Hashem. Yoshua will build a Mizbeach for Hashem. It doesn't say he built it at his Yikra. Mikan L'Tchiasanis in the Torah. So I said what this represents will be something that these great people do these things. There'll be a time in the future when Moshe Rabbeinu will sin. Moshe Rabbeinu is dead. Taik will sin. Adonai, Tchiasanis. Yoshua will build. Yoshua is dead. Taik Yoshua build. Tchiasanis. Alabata, as Yid Yeshua Bama Kvala Kyosh, Shakot's Lord. So as I say, interesting enough, the Pasuk says that Shlomo is actually clear the Pasuk. Shlomo built a Mizbeach for Kamosh, who was one of the deities, one of the idolatries of Moab. How can I be is that we have Shlomo who builds an actual Mizbeach for a Zara Ella, Ma'ala Ala Kasab Kili for the Rabbi says in the passage. Shlomo never has shown build a Mizbeach for Avodah Zara. I said, why does it say that he did? Shlomo Melech did not curve that Avodah Zara had the effects of his wives. And as a result, his wives worshipped idolatry in his home. And he did nothing to stop it. Because he did nothing to stop his errors in his home, is how he felt always if he did it himself. Incredible. In that case, it's in the Torah. From where do you know about Chesed? In the Torah, so from the Shemar, Asher, Yishmei, Yisaka, all the Arab Chesed. It's beautiful. So literally, praiseworthy are those who follow their home. All the Arab Chesed, right? And then we'll go ahead and praise you. So the Gemara says, it doesn't say they praise you present, rather what does it say? And then Hallelujah. Future tense. They will praise you. They will praise you. You can't test this in the Torah. So what's I saying? What is this future praising? Future praising is the mystic test. Beautiful. Something my brother showed me is beautiful. My home, Shiva, when I said, Rabbi says, Shiva, first, these are in this world. Will be privileged ultimately again to see Shiva in the world to come. Shiva, ever, Ashra, the Yoshua, the Seraphon, all the other questions. There's so much to say about this Gemara. What is it if you see Shiva in this world, you see things that are with this world, ultimately again, you will see especially some other things that are on the system, so I'll say, the Olam Haba Yara, it's a direct reflection of the Olam Haba that you create for yourself. There's another piece to this as well. I'll say, what is Olam Haba? What is Olam Haba? Remember, right? Olam Haba is Tzadikim Yoshne, the Atar Seyim, but Hashem, and then it's the Shne. So, again, righteous sit. Sit there like the Shmara hope that the deeds of the crown of their good deeds is upon their head, and they derive benefit from the Shema. That's all now. And one side, that's sometimes a person will be saying, Is there like a tea room, is there like a shleppy coming, is a phone, is that it? Like, is that it? Then also, a lot of times you see it, I'm like, that sounds really good. You're right. All of Rabbi is only meaningful if at the end of the day, if at the end of the day, you value a relationship with Hashem and all the husband. If a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not my priority in this world, then all of Rabbi doesn't look all that appealing. Because all of Rabbi is connection to Hashem. So that is something that I value in this world, and I strive for in this world, and all of Rabbi is something amazing. But all of Hazar really is much more about the material, and all about the enjoyment, and all about the stuff, and all about the acquisitions, which are beautiful and important. And that's pretty much what life is all about. All of Hazar is a let down, a tremendous letdown. So what's this interesting? If you want to enjoy all of all of Hazar has to look a certain way. And perhaps that's the Gemara saying over here as well. If you see Shira in this world, like if you don't want it, it's life is about connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But at the end of it, all of Hazar will be great. But if not, all of Hazar is just about the material, just about the mundane. All of Hazar doesn't sound all that exciting to you. So once again, the voices of those of your subjectivity, those who see you, right? They go ahead and call out like praise you, future tense. Once again, future tense is not like this. Shira Bakala, this is so beautiful. Beautiful for all of the year was Shira with one voice. Was the Shinema, called so far by Nasu called Yak Governor, was a happy thing. All the names speaking in one voice, right? Where all the leaders of clubs so speaking in one voice. How incredible is that? How overwhelming is that? That's most of Shira. And now, again, as we saw, remember, everyone who said that we saw right before, is never is speaking in one unified voice. I'm going to read over he even goes on that for us also. So I say this is without. If you have the presidents keep on teaching Torah, but withhold their Torah from your Talmud. Let's turn to the Talmud. So let's say, this could be a Rabbi, this could be a parent, this could be anyone, Lord. I just know this hard Torah on something, but I don't do it. I withhold it. It's as if you're stealing that person's inheritance. Isn't that incredible? So what's that? So again, I give to give Torah to someone, I don't do it. It's as if I'm stealing their inheritance. Shinei Markar, saying on the Moshe, Moshe, Kilasya. Moshe, the Chodesh of the Shesh Federation. So once you hear how the Pasuk refers to Torah, it's a Moshe. Moshe is an inheritance. It's our inheritance from the beginning of time. And Shesh has been generations. Rashi points out there was the Shesh generations. So you Rashi points out the Sid. Rishis Bara, the Torah Shniparations. So Rashi points out Torah. Rishis Bara, or in the year of the Rishis is a contraction. The Shvir of Rishis. Because of that which was created first, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world. Torah was created for Torah. Torah was given to Klal Yisrael, and therefore again, I withhold the Torah from someone. Why? He give it to me. This is not taking their inheritance. I'm not going to buy this that. I'm not ashamed to see that. Because Rabbi withhold a halakha from a Talmud. Rabbi was referred to teach a Talmud, and he doesn't teach so. Listen to this. Even Operation Rabbi will cover ourselves. Such a Rabbi is cursed even by fetuses in Europe. Because Shinei Mar, Monei Abar, Papa Tzadikiris, Monei Abar, Yikavolo, Ne'eg Omer, Brit the Omer, the fetuses, Shinei Mar, with Omer, Opi Hamas, Ne'eg Kavo Al Hachona, Tzadok is cursed, Shinei Mar, Na'akol, no cover of God, by this. Someone said, what does this mean? What does this mean? Someone doesn't say that like someone Michal Shabbos is cursed even by fetuses. What does it mean? So the Rebbe didn't teach. The Rebbe didn't teach the Talmud Torah, and therefore what? And therefore he's cursed even by the fetuses. That's the pshat of that. Was that some comes from this thing, a person continued to withhold growth opportunity from someone else. Don't say we make the mistake that sometimes the greatest things we accomplish are the things we do for ourselves. And that's not true. Sometimes the greatest things we do in life is the great achievement of the thing we accomplish. When we do something for ourselves, what are you talking about here? A Rebbe has an opportunity to teach a Talmud. Rebbe has an opportunity to give up Rabbi to a Talmud, which means that he to be the enabler of someone else's growth. And if I don't do that, that's an application of the highest level of personalistic responsibility. That's my avoid. My power avoid in life is not going to enable our own growth, but it's to enable the growth of others. And if it's not good to do so, the world curses you for that. Incredible. So, man, like the so that's what also can happen. If you don't let it hold from the student, then you literally again, so the pure student like a seed. Okay, I want to say that, but Rashi points out it's going to be pure like a seed. It means you forget your word. Just like that, if you put something into a seed, contents don't get already, he doesn't share his Torah with other people, which is his murder. Because if he doesn't share it, the ones that show, it shows that he thinks that his Torah is his. Torah is not yours, not nothing is mine. Like it's about stars, right? Everything that Hashem gives me, whether it's my money that he gives me ultimately to do good for others, or again, it's my Torah that he gives me to give great to others. That's the whole level of life. Therefore, if I don't share my Torah with others, ultimately, I lose it. Unabhängig von allem in Akten ausgehört. Sim Halka, die Verwundung, Situation, bei Iko vor der Welt. Bei anderen Abteilungen, die uns vor die Beziehung. Really perfect like a little bit, like a one verse. Alright, in one go, I want to teach someone Torah. Also, it's so much punishment to your own Torah. What happens if a Rebbe, what else is obligation, teaches his study in Torah? What's his reward? I'm a Rabbi, I'm a Shimshas, Zuka, Hasios, Lapos, so such a Rabbi, I was earlier, when you see a Rebbe, trying to point out, a Rebbe doesn't have to be a rabbi, doesn't have to be a Rebbe, right? A Rebbe is anyone who has the ability to give over Torah to someone. So you take your Torah, and you check, also, I can't tell you what you insist on. One of the most incredible things that sometimes we don't realize that we have the ability to do is to have a chavisa with someone. And especially sometimes getting other guys chavissas. Sometimes it's not like a chavisa, both of you are on the same level. And you have a chavisa with someone, and you have the opportunity to really help someone grow your learning. You become a Rebbe. It's a Rebbe chavisa, it's a Rebbe chavisa partnership. And I must say, that is the most profound thing. Whenever we should tomorrow, be like, automatically shit, oh, he's talking about a Rebbe, a rabbi, a Rebbe. No, this is every single one of us. If you take all of us have Torah, and all of us can convey this, and if you convey that Torah, what happens? You are privileged to have brachos like Yosef, Shene and Mar, who brachon Kush Mashpir, Ve'id Mashpir, and Yosef, Yashmuzah Shene and Mar, Yosef was showing on the Aretz, whoever was going to fall on the Aretz. So we'll say, so what's the shot? What's the shot if someone sings like strengths their Torah? Like your brachos like Yosef, why not bracha like Abraham, why not bracha like Yosef? What was the entire book of Yosef? Yosef took his brachos, and what did Yosef do with his brachos? What did he do with it? Shared it with everyone else. That was the entire essence of Yosef. But Yosef, after everything that he has been through, every way he says, forget about the rest of it. I'm not going to take revenge. I'm not helping you, I'm not doing anything for you, but instead, every single bracha that comes Yosef's way, one person who takes it and uses it to help the other. That was Yosef. That was Yosef outside. Congratulations. Kolomani is beautiful. Kolomani job on myself. Zochar the Kolomani doesn't only have talks. Wow. Because if ever teaches Torah in this world, the Zochar to teach it from the world to us. Now, by the way, what does that mean? Well, again, we always come back to our question of what's Olam Haba? What does he want to do? Is Olam Haba and when you die? Is Olam Haba Messiah ever? Either way, it's really good. Either way, it's really good. Like they always say, that teach Torah in this world is what they're going to teach Torah Olam Haba as well. For those who say, hopefully, is also that the people who learn Torah with, people who learn Torah with, they have to show them this opportunity in this world. For us, can you imagine? We have our couple that we have our share in Olam Haba. Like, I think we'll be able to do faster. Right? I think we'll be able to do faster. But yes, I say, how incredible is that? So you know that the Shemay Amar, for us, it says, so it's a long time. There's no time at all. We have to like look back. I got to look at it. We must have Shemay Amar, that's down from Hilda. All of that, but it is Christmas. So what's the other station? What's Christmas, right? I don't think there's any other Gemara. It tries to make so many riders for the curse. Like, this is yellow, right on. Just because I said about that, that's over 1.5 bar. Right, so 1.5 bar, right? You get 4. I mean, you First of all, because again, the notion of Kesed is such an incredibly important soul that the Gemara was defined as literally sport as you can. Then it says, if you relate this to Al Yomas, relate it with it, will not that hard. Just like if you think all was as, that much like you saw, that's about it. Yaakov, it's a lot of Shabbat. If you live in Al Yomas, if you live in Bali, moving and live in this world, Al Yomas, you will not die in the world. I'm going to help ideas from here. The Rabbi Yishir had us up on the Kitsu. They were trying over, they were the also in Europe. So it's incredibly young. A number of these things from the Rio are actually quite explicit, right? So many of those who sleep in the earth will wake back up. Some to the world to come and some to the evolution. The Rashi and the other Rashi says from here, the act of life locates the Tanukh, the Talmud of Allah, and treats another. And now ultimately again, you go to your place and rest, but stand like literally again and return the Torah because it returns to the destiny at the end of the day. So it's actually interesting because a number of these psukim, we actually say Kfura. This is actually the custom that we say after the Kfura is completed. Before we have even leave the Kever and walk back to the shore, walk back through the line, we actually restore it. It's not halacha, but it's later. Many of the actually recite this custom, the dressing to the Neshama. A little buzzer. So finally, it's Shabbat, they said, Siba V'Nachmas. Zokah, even though not about any leader, who leads his flock, who leads his seaboard, V'Nachmas, the order of Nachmas. Nachmas means with a gentle kite. A gentle kite is not yelling, it's not speeding, it's not firing brimstone, not Nachmas. So such a person like this is Zokah to lead that seaboard over the Haba as well. I will say, these Gematriyas indicate that on the Haba there's a reference to Messianic era. I post yes, I mean, Sierra. Shenema, Kimathim, Hagim, Bahamahu, Vine, the desert. He told me there, he told me there, Shinita Benchdeos, Zero. Wisdom. Now, we're going to define what wisdom is a little bit. Wisdom is great. Why? Because he's given between, it not only means between two letters, but it actually means between two names of Hashem. Shenema, Hikel, Deos, Hashem. So, once you see that, Deos is mentioned in the middle of Kel and Hashem. So you must say that's incredible if something is given over between two names of the Nikomash. Go to Mikdash. But he said, Mikdash is Mikdash, because it was given over between two names of Hashem. How Hashem and Mikdash Hashem? So it's the Mikdash sandwich between two names of Hashem. Must be clear about that. Must be clear about that. After you don't really come up. And the term of vengeance. Vengeance is also good. That's vengeance is given between humans and Hashem. It's Kel Nikamos Hashem. Right? The Pasuk says, Kel Nikamos Hashem, Kel Nikamos Sophia. Amalei, the not say, vengeance has its place. Absolutely. Vengeance, as much as we don't think about vengeance as a negative thing, vengeance is not a negative thing. Sometimes vengeance is very powerful. And very appropriate. You do a stay on fast, I love. So why do I need two revelations? How far away from the revelation? So much revelation. That doesn't say revelation twice. That's just as what Peter was. And it says the comma twice. So it's like two revelatory, the comma moments. So what does that mean? So you know, it's Akos, the Akos, so one ultimate is there was the vengeance for that. So vengeance for people is good. Like to take vengeance really. Sometimes, as we said before, sometimes vengeance is good. Sometimes vengeance is in our favor, especially when it's taken out on those that oppressed us. And sometimes vengeance has a shalom in nature. So I know to call him Shish Prepare, what's his beautiful love. Call any person who is there, who has understanding, he will live in the place that he fish beautiful. It's as if it's in fresh water, it's spoken as this. She said, it's the why. She said, he came to finish the ourselves, because then he came to finish ourselves. Because ultimately, again, we said before, there are two means of Hashem, and you just finish Hashem. Now, what that means, what does that mean? Any person who has there, as we know, it's English was, we go to come back to that Gemara. So you underline it, and after we get home, making the definition of really what there means. Alright. Okay. Yeah, give it 2 minutes. I don't know actually. I don't know. So I can choose from there, the self is action. Any person who is there will become wealthy. Share Mar, ובדרס חרדים לימוד מקום, יקר ולעולם לא לעזור, כמו אדם שאין בו דעה, אסור להכין עליו. Every person who doesn't have dale, every person who doesn't have dale, ultimately then you can't have Rahmanas on. Share Mark, Kilo Amzinasu, Hakim Bonirakamel, Oseo, Biotra, Ramadan, Call Hanos, people in Chamber there, he's from Bangalore, burn his bread. Someone who doesn't have dale, ultimately again, bad things will happen. So what's it's very interesting, so you see the schema of the actually someone who doesn't have dale. You can't go ahead and give your bread to someone who doesn't have this. Then I say, what's the shot of this? What's the shot of this? So it's like, because everything is still. What's the hiccup? What is translated as wisdom? Well, it's like, well, what is good about it? It's just when it's just want to make some perspective. What is the core component of wisdom? Like, what is like the most basic aspect of wisdom? What's wisdom? So it's interesting. Remember here, a sound, right? One sentence brought this. It speaks about Havdalah with an S. Chazal said, "Where did Chazal quote Havdalah? Where does Havdalah go? Anta Choner Ma'adam Das." The most basic concept of Das is the ability to distinguish between Kodesh and God. Das and its mixed. Before we get into all the deeper layers of what wisdom actually means, what wisdom means on its most core level is I can distinguish between right and wrong. I can distinguish between Kodesh and Chol. I can distinguish between Tamil and Tar. I want to say that is the thing that every single person has the ability to do. You know, to be a Chacham, right, there's Chachma, there's Bina, there's that. Okay, so Chachma, Bina, those might be higher levels, and then every person has the ability to access it. But to have Das, to be the kind of person who knows what's right and what's wrong, and to make the right decisions in life, every single person has the ability to meet that threshold. And failure to do so is only one person's fault, and that's mine. And that's like Chazal said, if somebody doesn't have bail, don't have Rahmanas on them. Don't have Rahmanas on them. Why? Because they're hurting themselves. They're not a victim of anything. They're hurting themselves. Someone doesn't have bail, don't give them bail. Right? Why? Because you are enabling an errant lifestyle. It was like the person has to have a basic moral compass. You actually know what's right and what's wrong. And if you don't have that, if you have that, you're legally going to continue on that broken path. And that's like the verse says over here. That's how it says. Any person who has data, he was never having some push beyond right? Ultimately, again, it's not at the end of the day. There's only really one thing I need in this world to be successful. Data. I have to know what's kosher, what's trade, what's double, what's tar, what's kodesh, what's cold, what's nigger, what's esser, what's told, what's yah. And as long as I have that, I'm good. The rest, I'll acquire or I won't. But as long as I have data, I will be successful. Conversely, if I don't have data, number one, if I don't have data, it's my fault. Don't blame anyone else. If I don't have data, it's my fault. The failure to acquire it is the highest level of person is the culprit. To the point, you can't even help out a person like that. Such an overwhelming, incredible desire. And that's what the verse says, all right, I'm going to realize that. Let's say people who shave like that, you shave like that. That's why I did. If you can look back to someone who doesn't have data, you, the giver, will suffer. Why? Because you are enabling someone. You are enabling someone to continue down the road path of the Shemar. From the fund of Simon, so that box, they took the main mother as a switch and Mar. I have a you guys was all about no matter. Colombian shit go down, stop a go. Person doesn't have down, both with the exile. Makes a lot of sense. Why? If I don't have down, if I don't have down, chances are I won't be able to build a solid life. I'll be able to build relationships because if you don't know what's right and what's wrong, you can't build relationships. It's as simple as that. Also, there are people who don't refuse, not that they can't, they refuse to see right from wrong. They make every single excuse why what you're doing is okay, even though it's clearly not. You can't build relationships, can't build a home, can't build a life. That's really the self-goda. Self-goda, everyone should have looking Allah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Kalai Shein, what do they call it? Shwan Baba Laila, Insha Allah, so I'll say that in terms of US. That's data. I'll say this is ridiculous. Anyhow, the words of Torah are not heard in Ekron. So, any language is not totally innate. Ish Allah, so 5 of them student, Shein Nar, Kochum Shechtam, and Spinaf, the Fire Age, Yara, Sud Alhaba, they Sud Al-Hamtaham, the Zamkar Shanar, and the Suda Shem Kola, but fine, those is all of that. Any only which told us that man at night, fire will be smooth. That's a pretty strong social side. It tells us very importantly, in addition to position of the lightsaber and the beautiful inspiration, which again, everybody has obligations with a lightsaber, right? Even if it's for 15 minutes. Every time you have an obligation with a lightsaber, it's not a shame, it's not like, oh, I want that one. It's a huge thing that it's a yard by yard. Don't look at it, so I find that instead of, always say, yeah, that's actually not like companies maybe for a little bit of money, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. And stuff like that, this message, but in addition to that, just always have someone at home. Always have that toilet in their house. Like, and it's so important for so many different reasons. A wife should see her husband learning Torah. Children should see their father learning Torah. Most of my home should see me learning Torah. So what's the shot on the United States over here? And any home in which Torah is not heard at night, fire consumes absolutely like this. Night is always a metaphor for different like this. Like that's the Rabbi's always a metaphor. It's a complex. Actually, Rabbi's like this. Whole Titus, Shade, different Torah, Nishma, and Papa, right? So any home in which Torah is not heard at night, whether it's any home where things become difficult, the Torah stops. Right? And then as soon as it becomes light, as soon as life becomes difficult, the first thing that kind of goes away is Torah. Just understand, fire, not the fire. Fire is also destructive. Destructive forces will consume it. During difficult periods of life, the first thing that gets stopped is spirituality. Just understand the fire of circumstances will consume that hope. This power of a home, this power of anything in life, is rooted in its connection to the place. So even during the lighter periods of life, there is Torah in my home, there is Torah in my life, then I will be safe from the ravaging effects of even the most difficult of life circumstances. Conversely, if in the moment that difficulty set in, the first thing that goes is Torah, the first thing that stops is Torah, then Eishach Vasa. Every single difficult circumstance will ultimately consume my home, and consume all the circumstances. So once you have to stop it, incredibly hard, but I have to stop over here, shkoyach. By the way, so we did more than a block today. Fantastic. I wrong block, that's a detail. So let's say what we did is, I think tomorrow is going to be a catch-up day, because the minutes are much shorter tomorrow. The minutes are shkoyach, everyone is such a stretch, everyone. It's not a bad idea. Oh, was it already? That's not true. All right. All right, everyone, so good morning. Let us begin by thanking all of our sponsors for this morning share. To thank our annual commentator for the sponsor. Also, Mishpach Haver for dedicating all the Shem and Roshos this year as a Chus from Saras Kavos Israel. Our commentator sponsors for the month of Adar, Terry and Steve Sin, and loving memory of Terry's father, Dr. Harry Khan, from the rough of Steve Hirsch, Ben Yosef HaKohen, and the Sid, Levin, and Berkeley families in memory of the Lord who Sid Shmuel Ben Israel, and the merits of our Talmud Torah. All of the Neshamos have no need. The family singers from Trump will bring all of our hostages home, and our holy soldiers will be successful. The whole Maaseh. Let's read that. Let us begin. We have a lot to do today. Today's daf is Tzadik Days 92. We're picking up on Tzadik Aleph, 3 lines up from the bottom. All the way until yesterday. We have an incredible, still more incredible, beautiful Gemara ahead of us. We should have got to this cycle like 8 years. But it's given like an extra 6 months to kind of look through Gemaras like this, but all right. Okay. Good. So it's the 3 lines up from the bottom. Tzadik Aleph and Aleph 91. Amalei Rabbi Anto. Amalei Anto. So let's say, so we're going to have a number of different conversations like this between Rabbi and Antonius was a Roman official. There's a little bit of historical debate exactly who Antonius was. Was he a Caesar? Was he somebody else? So we'll just go with the idea that he was one of the Caesars. So fascinating,
Yo, can you hear me? Red Glover. Illinois decided to get off this. How you living? Can you hear me? Red Glover. Can you hear me? You speak English? How'd you find out about me?
development Rabbi. And so the Gemara records multiple conversations between the two men who had tremendous respect for one another. And Antoninus actually helped out Rabbi on a number of different occasions. So the Antoninus says the following: Go for the Shama, the Cholam Lifta. This is incredible. The body and the soul have the ability to kind of exempt each other from judgment. Meaning, essentially, another way of saying, body and soul have the ability to blame each other for failure. How so? Kesad. Go for Omer. The Shama Chatas, the body can say it's clearly the Shama's fault that I've sinned. How so? Very listen to this question. Shem Shakir Shemeni, are you for Kevin? Don't in the Kever? Because the body can say, look, I'll show you the Naya. From the time that the Neshama left me, I have not gotten myself into any trouble. Right? The moment that the Neshama left, what am I doing? I'm just laying here in the grave. So clearly, again, who is the instigator of all of my life's problems? It clearly was the Neshama. The Neshama can say, Kuf Chata. No, it's the body that's saying, what's the proof? Already because the Neshama said, look at me. From the day that I left, that's Fashtunti of body. What happened? I'm flying to the heavens like a bird. Like a bird. Right? So the body says it's clearly the Neshama's fault. The Neshama says it's clearly the body's fault. So let's do this. So Antoninus was asked, what's the question here? Antoninus was questioned. He said, what is the mechanism of divine judgment? How does the Mishpach hold the person accountable? When essentially a person is composed of these two opposing forces, and it's not clear who has responsibility, ultimately the failure of man. So this is beautiful. I'm sure the Chavashal Madam done. So he said, let me give you a mashal. Let me give you a mashal. I'll give you a little mashal. To this is great. The Melech Basar Kam Shayla Pazis done. The king had a beautiful orchard. On the base, and in the orchard or in the field, the king had very nice dates. Very nice dates, right? Or very nice things. Now the king put there two watchmen to watch over the field. One of them was crippled, and one of them was blind. So one of those, okay, so you got it. So these were the watchmen over the field. So he goes, I don't know if he knows. So the crippled one said to the blind one, the fellows knows, I see that there's some really nice things in this place. But they have given me the visa offer. So the crippled watchman says to the blind watchman, put me on your back, your legs, my eyes, together, we'll be able to partake of the things. So sure enough, sure enough again, the crippled one got on the back of the clock.
How you living, big dog? I'm kicking ass, taking names. Every day's a holiday, every day's a feast. First and foremost, I love you half the time. Absolutely. 100%. Michael Gary Scott. I'm Randy Clover. How'd you find out about me? Oh, on Kit? That's amazing. All right, my friend. So you are a streamer yourself, I take it? Word, dog, got me off. Do you mind if I tell you about myself? Excellent. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Rabbi ROTHSCHILD. I stream my life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for world peace. I've been doing so for more than 3.5 years. My streams go back to the pandemic. We've seen the death of a queen, the birth of AI, the coronation of a king, and everything in between. If I may ask, a radical lover, have you ever seen the movie The Truman Show or the television show Big Brother? Excellent. Well, that's essentially what my life is. I'm live right now on more than 20 different YouTube streams, 360 degrees. If you weren't aware, the Economist magazine stated in 2018 that data whether it's your number one resource, and I have more data archived on the internet than any person ever. You may make me an influential person someday, and if when that happens, erratic government, I want to make you, your friends, your family, all independently wealthy. If you're not already, I want to make sure that you have generational wealth if you don't already. And I want to make sure that you are able to start charities and philanthropic organizations of your own. How does that sound? Absolutely. 100%. I talk about things that I think will help the world. Things like ending world hunger through the use of technology such as agricultural transport, greenhouses, saltwater greenhouses, hydroponics, vertical farming, cloud seeding. I want to help end world first. I'm sponsored by cryptocurrency that's worth about $100 million. And one of the things that we do is we build wealth in developed nations like Nigeria for the African World First. Additionally, I did the Global Livestock Program, or most importantly, I'm an advocate for desalination technologies that operate seawater underwater making drink. How do those things sound to you, Brad Glover? Excellent. I talk about other things, specifically futuristic topics, topics on futurism, on the futurist myself, things like anti-gravity, antimatter festival, like travel festival, like education, artificial narrow intelligence, artificial general intelligence, artificial super intelligence. I talk about things like the livability phones. I talk about things like space tourism, space elevators, terraforming other planets. I talk about things like interstellar travel. I talk about things like the extinction people on Earth, the differences that can do scientific things in the 2003 with the hydrogen ibex, which was a belt located in northern Spain, southern France. Fast forward to the year 2021, a company out of Dallas, Texas, inspired by Cross Scientific. They've made it their goal that within the next 3 years, they're going to increase the world net into the IP circuits as well as the development circuits. I just think it's a mind-blowing goal. Additionally, they want to introduce the testing together after the independent, followed by the donor program. Really excited about this. Additionally, we talk about we've been doing that for a long time. Right, so the first person to start to read whether it's good or not, it's just another true thing. Yeah, I mean, as a futurist, I think that the more that we're able to manipulate our own environments, better opportunity to be able to live longer and perhaps be able to evolve into a new kind of species. So I'm about that. I like that. Um, for those people who don't like that, they don't have to have a future. They can decide if they want to just live a finite amount of years and then die like a normal Homo sapien has for the last few hundred thousand years. But for those of us who want to perhaps escape a type of normal death into transhumanism, I think we should be allowed that option as well. So long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. Okay, how's it going to hurt them? I'm in agreement with you on that one, big dog. That's certainly a potential. You're 100% right on that. I don't disagree. Go ahead. do my best to be 100%. I will with peace. I don't agree with everything going on anywhere in the world, to be honest with you. I want total peace. I don't want anybody dying on any side of any war, whether it's in the Middle East or uh, Russia. So the heart of my life, I'm pacifist, and I don't feel that I have any right to put my hands on you, nor do you have any right to put your hands on me without our consent. And if we get things like that, then we have to fight. Yeah. So that's definitely what happens. 100%. 100%. That's not yeah, I don't know what specifically is referencing that passage at this time, but in general, I think the borders of Israel have never been defined, nor well, not biblically, nor modernly. But if you really want to know, I want I can go to a name that perhaps is the whole world. But that doesn't mean that other people can enjoy it. So just like part of me has a desire for the United States to be the whole world. Any person in any country is rich and good. In their own way wants everyone to experience the same type of benefits and treatment that they're able to. And you have a homogeneous society. That's yeah. So basically, I think we should give people the opportunity to be Jewish if they want to be Jewish. It hasn't been something that's really publicized. We don't proselytize as Jews. When I look at their strap, public statements, something essentially, unless you're in a world where people want to be Jewish. If they don't want to be Jewish, well, they don't have to be forced to make that. But I think they don't necessarily know what it is to be Jewish, but they're not going to try it. So, right, that's the thing. Big disagreement. That's a big disagreement for the last 2,000 years. Yeah, I could get on board with I could get on board with some of that, but I just have an issue with like the idea that God has God. I just feel it doesn't make sense. they have to carry out those from the dead, but that means he died, which means what? There wasn't God in the universe for 3 days because some Romans crucified him. It doesn't make sense. It's a nice story. Okay, okay, okay. Well, that's really more Christian, as I understand it. Most Catholic, it's more private. I mean, that's very good. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. Um, how someone could be impregnated by God, how that works. I know these are not questions for me to understand, but sure. But, you know, with that, I'm sure there's a lot of you have agreements, but help me out. What's your favorite character? Who's your favorite character? What's your favorite religion? What you talk about? Okay, do you have a favorite season? Okay, that's excellent. That's a great choice. Okay, do you have a favorite season? Or like I can tell you this. I love the seasons 1 through 7. I can't stand season 8 with Rabbi. Oh, it's awful. And then season 9 is okay, but I don't really enjoy that. But seasons 1 through 7 are amazing. Seasons 2 and 3 are some of the best television that NBC. Uh, Even 4 and 5 are really good. It gets, they say they jump the shark a little bit in the later seasons, which I don't really like. But when they're in that show, when they're sticking to things that are office related, I think it's absolutely hilarious. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Who's the hottest chick in the show? And he's not the character. Bam. You're good. And he's Big Bang. Okay. That's okay. I'm a big fan of Jan Robinson. She's like that's she's a beautiful woman. I think Frank's really good. She's like she gets up as the administrative assistant. Yeah, okay. Do you have a favorite episode? I get you. A lot of people do that. In fact, um, there's some people who just watch it constantly and that's amazing. And I totally get that. I've known people who do that. Okay. Any character you don't take care of my man. Come back anytime. All right, my friend. Well, you have fun. You have that stay. Take care, my friend.
One. And then imagine Kevin sweet face. Remember about so sometime later, none of the field comes on. And he says, oh, I have the photos of those things. Apparently they did a pretty good job consuming things and eat a lot of things in a relatively small amount of time or whatever, for a long amount of time. So the owner comes back and says, by the way, where are my things? So I don't want to see what. Also, I'm sorry, I'm going to eat I'm going to smoke euros. So again, what happened? So the watchman denied liability, not denied liability. So the blind guy said, what do you want from me? I don't have sight. The crippled guy says, but I don't have sight. Clearly. So what does the Allah say? Here, I got the store, but not also but so the owner of the field literally hang with the foot, the crippled one on the back of the blind one and judge them as one entity. So you're right, as individuals, there's no liability. But as a joint unit, you actually have culpability. Maybe Shema, the sort of a goof, it's not also Catholics. Especially since it says not just this right. By itself, so by itself, so what does Hashem do? He brings the Shema and literally throws it into the goof. It's done also, Catholic. And ultimately, again, he goes ahead and he judges them as one entity. Shemar, Yikra al Shemayim Me'av, Ve'al Ha'aretz L'Din Ha'av. Yikra al Shemayim Me'av is called to the heavens. Pasuk Zun Shema, Ve'al Ha'aretz L'Din Ha'av. Because he's close to the earth, the judgment together with it. Zehagov. So what's really fascinating? So I'll tell you something. I really look at the picture. It's so young. The Bible says, but still, it's not fair. Why should the Neshama be held liable for the sins of the body? At the end of the day, it's not the Neshama that sins. It's the Guf that sins. So why would the Neshama be held accountable for the sins of the body? This is what the Rebbe says. This is classic. The Rebbe says, because the Neshama didn't try hard enough to stop. Because sometimes what happens is when the body gets all revved up to commit the sin, the Neshama's like, I'm out. That's not a direct quote from the Neshama, you understand, right? In other words, like, I'm out. I'm not doing this. I just think, I don't want to be a part of this. I want to be involved in this. And the Neshama absents itself. The lady says, Neshama, how dare you? How dare you? You absent yourself when the body is struggling. Dafka, when the Guf is struggling, that's when you need to be there even more. Dafka, when the fires of desire are burning, that's when you have to be there even more. A chutzpah that you decide to walk away because now it's a little bit difficult. That's something I love. Is why the Neshama is held accountable to the sins of the body as well. You should have tried as hard as to stop it. When the struggle is most acute, that's not when you don't walk away. It's such a profound soul. Such a profound soul. Human nature is, I'm willing to be present. Whatever perspective they present in a relationship with other people, relationship with other people. I'm ready to work on myself, whatever it might be. Until when? As long as it's manageable. But how often do we walk away from things because they get too difficult? Now again, obviously on your friends or life, you have to walk away from difficult circumstances. Of course. But more often than not, says stop go when it gets hardest. Is that the most present? And you have to try hardest. The Neshama is held culpable because when the body was struggling most, that's when the Neshama really needed to be there. But instead, the Neshama said to himself, incredible. All right, let's go back there. I'm going to do this already. I think this is that's it. It's like, yeah. It's impossible. Seriously, for me, this is like with me. It's like we're switching to Abu Yomi at the end of Sanhedrin. Then I'm here at Hashem. We'll pick up the question from this. So here it says, Anthony is Rabbi. If they Macham Yotzei and Ezek Shekazon out. Let's do this. Anthony is asked Rabbi. And also, by the way, you see from the questions, these are not, sometimes the more important questions between Jews and non-Jews and Jews. The questions are often baiting questions meant to somehow, theology. If you notice that that's not the nature of these questions. And to meet us as actually like a real theological curiosity. It's just like a real world curiosity, which is why, by the way, Rabbi takes the time to answer so many of these questions. Because he recognizes this is not that he's difficult to try to discuss. This is something that's curious. see, I think that's really funny because this. If they last time we don't sit in the trust, why does the sun rise in the east and set in the west? Set to the west. I'll say that to have an appreciation for my last couple of days I was down in the flat. So if you're ever here, you should let it fly in your thoughts. The sun is glaring through those windows. Those windows will have I don't know, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. So, we don't appreciate. We're busy the whole day, often indoors the whole day. Sometimes you can sit on the areas a little while. I see the sun coming up. You're in Mamish, I mean, it might fly. You'll see it sitting there. So Ananias asks, why is it that the sun comes up in the east and sets in the west? Oh, right. So this is the key thing. So Rabbi says, what's your question? And if it was the reverse, I'm like, how the hit father? Then you have your father. So in other words, and if the reverse, right? If it was the reverse, it has to be the reverse. Why does the sun rise in the west and set in the east? In other words, Rabbi was asking, what's your question? What's your question? I'm not helping on the phone. No, here's my question. No, I'm just asking, why not just have the sun rise in the east and set in the east? Why does it have to rise in the east and set in the west? That's my question. Why does the sun need to traverse in the other direction? I'm not this is so beautiful. In order that the sun should be shalom aleichem, should be shalom to everyone, shalom. So look at Rashi. Rashi's on both sides. I mean, Joseph did a lot of the explanation with that because even Rashi couldn't get it together on one side of the page, right? Rashi took over both sides. So Rashi moved both sides of the page and said that this is what we as well. So look at Rashi. Rashi on the right hand side. We can show the Torah. Back on Farhu. Shashir B'Arim. So Kiva Shemagas. Adaman. That's what we check on the Devil. So everything is in the west. Remember again, using this English model. So that we're the Shakadash and Holy Holies situated in the westernmost part of the Beis Mikdash. So that's when it says that the Shekhinah is in the west. So therefore, the sun comes and bounds down before the Shekhinah is in the west, and it sets. That's when it says it goes down, representing bowing. So the Shekhinah, the sun itself bounds to HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the end of everything. So it's Shekhinah, it's Spashon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Arolei, Sisi Atalba. So I understand. So as Anthony, so once again, why not allow the sun to come like mid-sky? So rise in the east, come to mid-sky, bow there, by sort of not bow there. In other words, bow there, and then just set. In other words, God is asking, why does the sun take its way also to the west? I understand this makes its way from east towards west. Why does it have to go down all the way into west? Let it just come to mid-sky, so to speak, down to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's set right there. The question Gemara says, "Shum Parliament of all great troubles because of workers and travelers." So what does that do with the fashion? Shum Parliament, you can't call your match home. Sheki Shefama the Ensar Akia Mukira Yosef, Sur Shadain Bishot, by Poland Shomora, Ashek Amali Drafem, Rafi Yogan, Mosai Yashok, Lakish. Here's the problem. If the sun was set in the sky, so no seventh what happens. The way the sun currently works is the sun goes down gradually. People know, right? The workers know that the work is there is coming to an end. Travelers know that they only have a certain amount of daylight left. If the sun were to set while it's in the sky, this would curtail the work day. This would be a problem for the work day. This would create the problem for travelers. Therefore, I control 1 hour to allow people to work. In order to allow people to travel, allows the sun to continue across the sky and set more gradually in the west. So the sun setting in the west will serve twofold purpose. Number one, that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and number two, it allows the next amount of time for travelers to work. So let's say what a tremendous person has to do. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu want to maximize time for? What does that maximize the time for? Working and traveling. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants more than anything for us is to work hard. And to work for as long as possible, and to maximize our hours of productivity. Otherwise, if you're causing the sun just to set in the middle of the sky, the whole reason why the sun travels from east to west and sets gradually, the whole reason is to give us more hours in the day to work, to give us more hours in the day to travel. What does it mean to travel? I'm at location A, I want to get to location B. Life is all about the travel. Life is all about the journey. Life is all about moving myself forward. And it comes from the maximize the time because what he wants more than anything from us is to work. He wants us operating on all cylinders. He wants us maximizing the work day. Talking about your career, right? It could be your material career and your spiritual career. He wants us to choose because he wants us to stay in place. So he maximizes the way that the sun works. Incredible. All the way up to this Rabbi. Michelle, I'm saying it's a profound question. So Athena says, by the way, when does the neshama come into the body? Which, by the way, interestingly enough, indicates to us that Athena believes in the neshama. He believes in the soul. So he asks, when does a person receive their neshama? Mishas Tekida or Mishas Sida? So we'll say Tekida, literally again at the beginning of the pregnancy. Now, Rashi points out also again the beautiful Gemara says but the Gemara says that when a woman becomes pregnant, so the Malach takes the tipa. So the tipa sounds like literally again, what do you call it? At the beginning of the pregnancy, what is it? Fetus, embryo, a blast. Okay, good, fantastic. So the Malach takes the blast and he goes ahead and he brings it before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he says, tipas from what is this? That's called Kita. Because you remember, this was the Malach saying to Hashem, what is this baby going to be? So Antonius asks Rabbi, when does the baby get its neshama? Is it at that moment, like when it's the blast, or maybe no, when it takes on serum is literally again, it's more of like a form of a human being. Right? The baby looks, or the fetus looks like a baby. So the Gemara says, Amalei, Yishas Sira. So Rabbi says it's from the time that the baby is more well formed. Okay? So Amalei, so Antonius says, doesn't make sense. So again, he says it can't be. This is, for example, a piece of meat, right? You can't leave a piece of meat out for 3 days and it won't go bad. It needs salt, it needs a preservative in order to keep it. So Antonius was saying everything that exists needs a preservative. So just like meat needs salt, so how does the blast, right? How does the fetus exist at any point in time without a neshama? It must be instead. It must be Elo Mishas Kiva. So Antonius says to Rabbi, it must be that the neshama comes into the fetus already from the time that's about, from the moment of conception. So Rabbi said, never said on that as a this. So this is Rabbi said, right, sing good. Right, in front of him there's a pasuk that backs up on the name. That's the pasuk. So the Gemara says, Shnei Amar, the Secha Shamra. So literally again, so the Gashni from Shas Kido, the moment of the beautiful moment of the Malach, brings the people, the trap of our HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shamra Ufi. My Ruach preserves. My Ruach keeps me. Which I will say seems to indicate that the neshama is given to the entity that is initial blast for incredible. Rabbi, let me say it's harsh about it. So I've been spoken about the Shama. I thought of the Shama. So when does a person get to the Sahara? So Mishas Tzira or Mishas Tzira. See, interestingly enough, so here the question is it from the time maybe that the embryo, that the fetus is formed, the baby is formed, or is that there's sinews, there's flesh, or the time that the baby comes out of its mother, exits its mother. Amari, says, I'm sorry, Mishas Tzira. Rabbi says, I responded. From the time that the fetus is formed in utero, ultimately, and that's when there's Yitzhak. So Adonai says this makes sense. If that's the case, the fetus would kick its way out of its mother. Which also says, the baby has any Yitzhak, it would kick its way out of its mother. Which tells you something that makes sense. What does the Yitzhak do? What does the Yitzhak do? The Yitzhak causes us to kick. The entire essence of Yitzhak is to break down boundaries. Right? In other words, Yitzhak says, okay, I know that this is us, so I don't care. I know that I'm not allowed to do this. I don't care. That's all happy Yitzhak. But here's the interesting idea. Yitzhak has a very profound use as well. Because if I somehow am able to take that energy of Yitzhak and channel it into that area, then suddenly now I have a clock inside of me that breaks down boundaries, which, by the way, can be the most incredible engine of growth. Right? Everything is about how you harness that power. So again, Antonius says it can't be that it has the Yitzhak because little people can kick its way out of it. It must be that it receives the Yitzhak when it comes into this world. Rabbi says, covers on Daniel Antonius. Rabbi wants to get a piece of this. You're right. It's absolutely right. Right? It must be that the neighbor sees when exiting the Mikra Messiah, and ultimately again it is a concept that supports this as well. Shneimar, the Pesach, Chatos, Rohitz. The Pasuk says that clearly again, sin awaits at the entrance. Of course, again, this is talking about Kain. It's by Kain, but it's a metaphor. The Pesach is always at the opening, at the entry to the world. In fact, the sin crouches. The Yitzhahara is there. And it looks like this seems to be that way. Very interesting. And the Yitzhahara comes about ultimately again when we enter into this world. The Bible said that this is so that the first of all, it's interesting to see and we know this because of our own lives. Then what does the Yitzhahara do? The Yitzhahara gets really kicked down its boundaries. But again, if I can harness that, if I can channel that, and what a profound engine for personality. Allah says, Rish Lakish exists. Rish Lakish contrasted to simple. And one thing says, well, it's like, so bomb, Ibar with the Seah, Allah will let us consider as the Dali Ayo Seah, this from Lashon, healing, Kinifko Mukbar Mayan, they have to be Dalaba. So, as I say, interestingly, we have two different people in there. First, and that's the Akara. So, the Gemara says, one pasuk seems to indicate that people come back with all of their physical blemishes. The other pasuk seems to indicate that people come back healed. Which is one of the questions that we have. We saw it right from yesterday's class. Right? How do people come back with transgressions, clothes, unclothed? Do they come back with their injuries, with their blemishes, with their disabilities? Like, how do people come back? Which the Gemara says, you're right, lucky. That's only in the moment in this struggle. In reality, we come back again without meaning, but then we are healed by our incredible. I will say now, why not just come back healed? Because again, there's a bigger appreciation when you come back with all of your injuries. Right? I come back with all of my broken heights. I come back with all of it. And then it's yes, and this is what goes in and heals me. That's tremendous. Let's go back to Ula Rabbi. Ula brings down to Psirose, second white line. And Taik comes from the police. Ula Rabbi. Ila Hamabas Life, and that's after Makash and the Real. So again, death will be swallowed up forever. And Hashem will erase every tear and every face. Kianar Zenner Shana Ramos. There's another question. In Messianic era, is there death or is there not death? One passage seems to indicate there's no more death. Other passages seem to indicate that no, there will be death. But when a person dies at 100, it'll be like the death of a young person. Which sounds like they'll live much longer, but there will still be death. So which one is it? So Kasho, can be so time I'll take over. One is I choose my food non-Jews. If I choose, they won't be dead. By non-Jews, they will be dead. I have all day go up and map out awesome. What are non-Jews doing? Like what? Oh, this is interesting. Like he starts getting these things like that. It's like what is that? So the Gemara says, my power awesome. One of the signal. I'm too sorry. Because again, apparently they're looking now. First of all, there's a whole discussion in terms of like righteous Gentiles. What did they have? Both in Olam Haba and Yimos Mashiach. And interestingly enough, it's because it's reflecting the idea that Yimos Mashiach is much more of like a spiritual experience in which we will have others to tend to our material needs. So there'll be a Gentile population to attend to the material needs of Am Yisrael and be fully focused ultimately again on spiritual building. It was interestingly enough. This is embedded in the whole sub-machlokas, which is what is the Messianic era, right? What is it? Is it like this supernatural world, or is it pretty much all of a regular world? So again, that's the backdrop to these discussions. That's the backdrop to like what happens with sickness, what happens with death, right? Clothes, unclothed, all of these things are really embedded in that backdrop as to what exactly does the Messianic era, right? Because everything has this machlokas. The Gemara always quotes the same passage, which is "Ayin lo rasa kibla decha," and I never saw it except for you, Hashem. In other words, we had these machlokim. These questions are fascinating, but at the end of the day, what's the answer? What's the answer? We'll know when we know. We'll know when we know. Okay. Rav Chisda Mitzvah. Rav Chisda brought up also contrasts of Sukkot. The Chafra Havana u'bo sha'achava kimat Hashem tzivakos. Siv v'haya or Havana k'orach hava. Interestingly enough, there's two different. The first person says that the luminaries, the sun of the moon, will actually darken in the sky. And second person seems to indicate that will shine even brighter, that even the moon will shine as bright as the sun. So which one is it? Which one is it? The Gemara says as follows. I suppose this is interesting. One is talking about the Messianic era, and one is talking about ultimately again Yemos Mashiach. Tells us, so what does this mean? So apparently Yemos Mashiach, is the light of Hashem. Where there is only the light of Hashem, the light of the luminaries is true. Yemos Mashiach, that's when all the luminaries will shine together. In the Shmuel, the Amar Ein Bein Ol Mazel Yemos Mashiach Al Shiva Golos Krovot. But according to Shmuel, says that there is no distinction between this world and the Messianic era, except Shiva Golos. It was saying Shiva Golos literally means we're not enslaved by any other nation. But more than that, it means everyone gives us the heck of a word. Everyone gives us a word. Which, by the way, is like, we don't need your help, we don't need your help, we don't need this, just leave us alone. That's Shiva Golos. Plus, of course, there's a recognition ultimately again of the one who's so how do you understand this? There's a pressure, come on, which is beautiful. So to speak, in the world to come, in the camp of Shekhinah, so you don't need to be right. The knowledge of yourself shines bright. In the camp of Tzadikim, that's where the luminaries shine even bright. Incredible. Rabbi said, so Rabbi contracts to Psukim, Ani Anisra'achi Avsiv, Machatzti Ta'ani Erba. So those things interesting. From Pasuk says, literally Hashem says, I brought death and I will bring back to life. Machatzti, I broke and I will heal. So the Gemara says, which powerful. Mashi Nemis and Ani Mechayev. The other, Mashi Machatzti Ani Erba. So the says, that which I took life from, I will give life to. And that which I broke, I will heal. This is what the Gemara said before. That how does Tchias HaMesim work? What are Tchias HaMesim works? First, the dead are brought back to life. But they're brought back to life with all of their health issues, handicaps, problems, challenges. And then what happens? Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu goes ahead and heals them. Almost like to amplify the miracle of Tchias HaMesim. That again, we come back how we were, and then ultimately again we come process. Of course, it was like the one part that you want to just got something there, which is interesting. The 5 million question is, how old are we? Like when we come back? Like what is it? I don't know. Trying to come back a little bit. It'll be nice. It'll be nice. So that again, so I was like I said, remember, and many of these questions that is really interesting. There's a million other ones, right? You know, say like Sharon asked like person who's married more than once, right? Who do they come back with? Right? It's a little awkward, how does that work? So there's a lot of stuff. Or what if you weren't having the first time around? Again, the second chance, they're doing things a little bit differently. There's a lot of discussions. So like I said, the Gemara is not attempting to give us insight and give us info. But at the end of the day, remember, it's always going to be the picture is always going to be incomplete. So the Gemara was like, and I'm the Sratia. So ultimately, Hashem says, I cause death and bring back to life. Maybe it means Hashem causes some people to die, other people to live. Say for the end of the Pasuk, Hashem says, literally, I broke and I will heal. Just like breaking and healing is talking about the same person. So too again, life and death is also in the same person. The Rabbi will say it serves as a proof to Tchias HaMesim. How do we know about resurrection of the dead? The Torah say this is fascinating because here the Gemara is now quoting a passage from the Torah. Right, up until now, most of it, except for Atem Azdeik, Mashal came to Chaim Kocha, like all the stuff. Most of the psukim, you can see, are for nothing. How do we know it's different, Rabbi? How do we know? Because we have no idea what you're talking about, right? So that's the first Shiraya. That is from David, right? So the Gemara says it's follows. So now I have a passage from the Torah. Az Dashir Moshe Yisrael Shira Azos. So then, right? That says then Moshe Yisrael will sin. Shalom, it doesn't say the son, right? It doesn't say as Shar Moshe himself. Moshe and Yisrael son of the son, rather Yoshir, future tense. What's the future tense? We can with Tchias HaMesim in the Torah. This is a proof of Tchias HaMesim. Right? Future tense that they will get those, they will get them in the future, and Moshe and Yisrael will sin. Yosef of the Western again out of order. As Yoshua Mizbeach Hashem, Yoshua will build a Mizbeach for Hashem. Baralongar doesn't say you don't rather every year. The kind of Knesset in that also what this represents is to be sometime in the future when these great people will do these things. There'll be a time in the future where Moshe Rabbeinu will sin. Moshe Rabbeinu is dead. So how Moshe Rabbeinu will sin? Elamai Knesset. Yoshua will build. Yoshua is dead. So how can Yoshua build? Knesset. Elamai as Yitna Shlomo Bama the Kmosh Shakot Shlomo. So it's interesting enough that the pasuk says that Shlomo Melech is actually crazy pasuk. Shlomo built a mizbeach for Kmosh, who was one of the deities, one of the idolatries of Moab. Does that mean that Shlomo will build an actual mizbeach for Avodah Ella Ma'ala Ala Kosov Kili? But the says a different pasuk. Shlomo Melech never had Shlomo built a mizbeach for Avodah. I said, why does it say that? Shlomo Melech did not curb the appetites of his wives, and as a result, his wives worshipped idolatry in his home, and he did nothing to stop it. Because he did nothing to stop his errant behavior in his home, he's held accountable as if he did it himself. Incredible. I'll never show you. In that case, from where do we know that case? In that Torah, says the Shemar Ashrei Yoshrei Nesefa Odi Alalufa Sela. It's beautiful telling. So literally, praiseworthy are those who dwell in your home. All the Alalufa Sela, right? You will go ahead and praise you. The Lord says, it doesn't say they praise you present, rather, what does it say? Future tense. They will praise you. They will praise you. The count has missing the Torah. So what is this future praising? Future praising is the Remes that has something beautiful. Second, Mabari showed you beautiful Maracol, Mr. Baldamas has no Mabal. Whoever says Shira first, these are in this world, will be privileged ultimately again to see Shira in the world to come. Shne'emar, Ashrei Yoshe, Safon, Odi Alum Hassan. So there's so much to say about this Gemara. What does it mean if you see Shira in this world? You see praise from in this world. Ultimately, again, you will see him as one of the most basic Olam Haba. And I was listening to what it means to say the Olam Haba you have is a direct reflection of the Olam Haba you create for yourself. There's another piece to this as well. Let's say, what is Olam Haba? What is Olam Haba? The Rambam writes, Olam Haba is Tzadikim Yoshvin La'ataroseyim Barashem V'ne'enim Mizivashvila. So ultimately, again, the righteous sit, right? They sit around the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the deeds of the crown of their good deeds is on their head, and they derive benefit from the Shvila. That's Olam Haba. I will say that sometimes a person is that, these are like a tea room, is there like a Shrek coming, is a form, is that it? Is that it? And also a lot of times you see, yeah, that sounds really good, right? All of the Haba is only meaningful if at the end of the day, you value a relationship with Hashem and all that does that. If a relationship with that Kadosh Baruch Hu is not a priority in the world, then all the Haba doesn't hold all that appeal. Because all the Olam Haba is connection to Hashem. So if that is something that I value in this world and I strive for in this world, then Olam Haba is something amazing. But if Olam Haba really is much more all about the material and all about the enjoyment and all about the stuff and all about the acquisitions, which are beautiful and important, but if that's pretty much what life is all about, Olam Haba is a big letdown, a tremendous letdown. So what's interesting? If you want to enjoy Olam Haba, Olam Haba has to look a certain way. And perhaps that's people are saying over here as well. If you see Shira in this world, in other words, if your world, if this life is about connection to HaKadosh, then at the end of the day, Olam Haba will be great. But if not, Olam Haba is just about the material or just about the mundane. Olam Haba doesn't sound all that exciting to you. We're looking at this Torah, Shneimar, also called Yachtal Yarnim. Once again, the voices of Tzadaka are those of your those who see. Right? They will go ahead and allow you and they will praise you future tense. Once again, future tense, not present. A season called Mefim, Omen, Shira Makola. So beautiful. Future all of the museum will say Shira with one voice. Shneimar, called Tzadaka Nasu, called Yachtal Yarnim. Was to have beautiful said. All the Nevi'im speak in one voice, right? All the leaders of thoughts, How incredible is that? How overwhelming is that? How beautiful. That's the most of the shit. Again, as we start, remember, every important tip was ready before. It's nevertheless speaking on unified. Summer of you come to Amra. Call Maria Halacha and Kalvin. He who goes home and not less than himself. So it's this. If a person is capable of teaching Torah, but withholds their Torah from their tongue, withholds Torah from the tongue. Everyone's like, this could be a Rebbe, this could be a parent, this could be anyone. I have the ability to impart Torah on someone. But I told him that I told it, it's as if you're stealing that person's inheritance. It's really incredible. So we'll say, so again, I have the ability to convey Torah to someone, I don't convey it, it's as if I'm stealing their inheritance. Our Torah Tzivalam Moshe, Morosha Kibilas Yaakov. Morosha he the following Yisrael Mishish Terish. So let's figure out what the possible first Torah. It's a Morosha. Morosha is an inheritance. It's our inheritance from the kingdom of Torah. Mishishes made gracious. Rashi points out there was a Mishish made gracious. So Rashi points out it's gracious Baral, the Shira Torah Shnik gracious. So Rashi first Rashi Torah. Gracious Baral, what is it? He has created gracious is a contraction. Shvil gracious. Because of that which was created first, the Torah was created. The Torah was created for Torah. Torah was given to God Israel. And therefore, again, if I withhold the Torah from someone who I can give it to, it's not taking their inheritance. I'm not going back to
How did you find out about it? How did you find out about it? How did you find out about the pistol? How did you find out about me? All right, would you please tell me how you found out about me? I sincerely appreciate it. Okay, great. Did I click one of your streams? Oh, it does. Absolutely. Okay, so did you see that I posted in someone's chat, or did I make it click on somebody? Excellent. Very well. How's your day going? Excellent. Anything big on your agenda? Very well. Do you mind if I close by myself? Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Rabbi ROTHSCHILD. I stream 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for world peace. We're doing so for more than 2.5 years by streaming from back to the pandemic. We've seen the death of the Queen, the birth of AI, the formation of the kingdom, and everything. Please don't let are you familiar with the movie True Children Television shows with brothers? All right, well, it's essentially a story similar to the Back to the as a fun. If you weren't aware, in 2018, the Taik magazine stated that data to its legal and resources overtaking petroleum, which means data is more valuable than food, water, earth, gold, and everything. 918 archives on the internet and on the first network, which may make me an influential person someday. If that happens, one of the few professionals I'll independently copy if not already, and for the next generation of the country that I'm already. I want to make sure that you have the ability to start sharing some of the information as well. How does that sound? So excellent. I talk about other things to help the world, like ending world hunger through the use of technologies such as agricultural drones, forming greenhouses, saltwater greenhouses, things like hydroponics, vertical farming, cloud seeding. I want to help end world thirst. I'm sponsored by cryptocurrency that's worth about $100 million. One of the things that we do is we put drugs in nations like Nigeria for the benefit of the world's portion. Additionally, I'm advocating for a lifestyle program. And most importantly, deceleration testing, where we pump you rinse you water onto and make it drink. How does that sound? That's great to hear. That's what on the future. Something like suspended the future. Other things I'd like to discuss with you is nothing really. I think that you guys can catch up. Also, application. Artificial neurointelligence, the general consequences, certain functions, things like space acquisitions, tourism, terraforming of other planets, interstellar travel. I like to talk about things like teleportation and things like Santa Claus machines, replicators. I like to talk about things like the extinction. People don't know this, but the first successful extinction took place in 2003 with the pioneering Atlas, which is a boat located in northern Spain, southern France. Fast forward to the year 2021, the company has now stuck to its body now spawns about 9 minutes. I created a great goal, and within the next 3 years, is that we each to introduce the word gamma into the Arctic Circle, utilizing Asian American surveys. I just think this is a mindful goal, and I found it to be a privilege at the time.
Kalmari halacha b'Talmud for Rabbi withholds halacha from a Talmud. In other words, a Rabbi has an ability to teach a Talmud, and he doesn't show it. Hafilu forward to remind you on Talmud also. Such a Rabbi is cursed even by fetuses in Europe. Shnei Mar Monei Bar Top of Taik Monei Bar Ikavolo Ve'im La'om Elakubrin La'om fetuses Shnei Mar La'om La'om Yamas Ve'im Kabo Elakala Kabo is cursing Shnei Mar Ma'akov La'Kavo Kial by Joel. Ve'im Bar Elator to Bar Mizor Shnei Mar Nosh Kubar Hen. So what's that? What is this? What is this mean? Someone who tells a horse doesn't say that like someone who's Michal Shabbos is cursed even by fetuses. What does that mean? So the Rabbi didn't teach the Talmud Torah, and therefore what? And therefore it's cursed even by the fetuses. Like what's the pshat with that? It's the same thing. The worst thing that a person could do is withhold the growth opportunity from someone else. Because we make a mistake that sometimes the greatest things we accomplish are the things we do for ourselves. That's not true. Sometimes the greatest things you do in life is the growth that you enable in other. When you do something for the source, what is the talking about here? A Rebbe has an opportunity to teach Talmud. A Rebbe has an opportunity to give over halacha to a Talmud, which means you have the ability to be the enabler of someone else's growth. And if I don't do that, that's an application of the highest level of personalistic responsibility. That's my avoda. Our avoda in life is not only to enable our own growth, but to enable growth of others. And failure to do so, the world curses you for that. Incredible. So Margot Zaito, we're not going to also Kabbalah. If you demonstrate this with whole Torah from a student, literally again, so it means they pierce you like a sieve. Okay, I'm not saying that, but Rashi puts out, but they pierce like a sieve means you forget your learning. Just like I put something into a sieve, the contents filter through it. A Rebbe who doesn't share his Torah with other people loses his learning. Because if he doesn't share it, what does that show? It shows that he thinks that his Torah is his. Torah is not yours, nothing. It's like life, nothing is mine. Right? Nothing belongs to us. Always I'm responsible for everything that Hashem gives me. Whether it's my money that He gives me ultimately to do good for others, or again, it's my Torah that He gives me to convey to others. That's the whole level of life. And therefore, if I don't share my Torah with others, ultimately, I lose it. I lose it. Good. Siv Hacha, Yikamulo, Siv Hasam, Vayiko for the Delta. Va'omar Abaye, Kimocho Abdikitsiri. Literally perforated like a lawnmower. All right? In Mundo, and what happens if you teach someone Torah? So what's this? This is all the punishment if you withhold Torah. What happens if a Rebbe fulfills his obligation and teaches his Talmud Torah? What's his reward? Incredible. So such a Rebbe, and when you say a Rebbe, I just want to point out, a Rebbe doesn't have to be a rabbi, doesn't have to be a Rebbe, right? A Rebbe is anyone who has the ability to give over Torah to say. So you take your Torah and you shake it. I can't tell you how important this is. One of the most incredible things that sometimes we don't realize that we have the ability to do is to have a chavrusa with someone. And especially sometimes, there are different types of chavrusas. Sometimes there were some chavrusa and both of them are on the same level. You have chavrusa with someone and you have the opportunity to really help someone grow in their learning. You become a Rebbe. It's a Rebbe chavrusa. It's a Rebbe chavrusa partnership. And I will say that is the most profound thing. We think whenever we see these Gemaras, we're like, automatically shift. Oh, he's talking about a Rabbi, a rabbi, a rabbi. No, this is every single one of us. If you take all of us have Torah, then all of us can convey it. And if you convey that Torah, what happens? Sochel Bechas Yosef. You are privileged that brachos like Yosef, Shene Emar, or brachos Rosh Mashpir. Ve'in Mashpir Elo Yosef. Shene Emar, Yosef Mashal Ala Aretz. Who Mashpir Lachol Ala Aretz. Someone say, by the way, so what's the pshat? What's the pshat if someone shares their Torah? They get brachos like Yosef. Why not bracha like Avram? Why bracha like Yosef? It was always the entire about of Yosef. Yosef took his brachos, and what did Yosef do with his brachos? What did he do with it? He shared it with everyone else. That was the entire essence of Yosef. But Yosef, after everything that he had endured, every right to say, forget about the rest of the world. If I'm not going to take revenge, I'm not helping you. I'm not doing anything for you. But instead, every single bracha that is on Yosef's way, what does he do? He takes it and he uses it to help the other. That was Yosef. That was Yosef at Zadig. I'm going to change this. Kalamani is beautiful. Kalamani is Rabbi Olam Hazeh. Zochel Olam Davi Olam Haba. Wow. I say every teacher's Torah in this world is so hard to teach it in the world to come. Now, by the way, what does that mean? What's the we always come back to our question of what's Olam Haba? What does it mean? Is Olam Haba where you go when you die? Is Olam Haba the Messianic era? Either way, it's really good. Either way, it's really good. Right? I will say that as you teach Torah in this world, you're going to teach Torah Olam Haba as well. Which I will say, hopefully means also that the people you learn Torah with, the people you learn Torah with, they're going to show maybe so much Torah in this world. And I can imagine if we have our Chatzos, we have our Shem, I feel like we'll be able to move faster, right? I feel like we'll be able to move faster. But you have to show us how incredible would that be? So the Gemara goes like the Shnei Amar. It says, so it's the Malam Razan. There's no time at least in the afterlife of death. Right? That'll be better. So the Gemara says, Shnei Amar Umar Ve'gam Hu Torah. Amar Allah. So once again, you see this fixation, highlight with Kesselis, right? I don't know if there's any other Gemara that tries to make so many rights for a Kesselis, right? This hour, not the because it feels like 7 o'clock, right? 1.5 bar. Right? So 1.5 bar in, right? And again, nine. So first of all, because again, the notion of Kesselis is such an incredibly important episode that the Gemara wants to find as many proofs for it as we can. So this is Minat Torah. Shnei Machar. Yechi Ruvain Ba'al Yamos. Ruvain will live in Ponatai. Parshas Vayikra. Yechi Ruvain Ba'al Mazeh. No, not Parshas Vayikra. Sorry. So it's not Brachos. It's not the Brachos of Yaakov. It's the Brachos of Moshe Rabbeinu. Yechi Ruvain Ba'al Yamos. Yechi Ruvain Ba'al Mazeh. Ruvain will live in this world. Ba'al Yamos the Olam Haba. Will not be dying in the world to come. You know, I'll again this from here. The Rabbi Mishneh Admas Hafar Yakis. So say incredibly enough, a number of these statements from Daniel are actually quite explicit, right? So many of those who sleep in the earth will wake back up. Some to come and some for degradation. Rashi and other Rashi says from here, now ultimately again, you go to your place and rest, but stand right literally again, return the door left, return for your destiny at the end of the day. So this is actually interesting because a number of these psukim, we actually say the kfura. This is actually the pasuk that we say after the kfura is complete. Before the Avela leave the kever and walk back from the shore, walk back to the wine, we actually say, it's not a halacha, but it's a minhag. Many of the minhags actually recite this pasuk, addressing it to the neshama. However, those are Parnes Shemani gets at Sifar Benachos. So when he can know about any leader who leads his flock, who leads his seaport, Benachos. What is Benachos? Benachos means with a gentle kite. The gentle kite is not yelling, it's not screaming, it's not fire and brimstone, not Benachos. Such a person like this is so that to lead that seaport Olam Haba as well. I will say these Gemara this is okay. The Olam Haba is reference to Messianic era. It's always supposed to be a Nixie era. Shnei Amar, Kimrachim Yagim Ba'amagui Ma'idina. Rabbi, Gedolodea, Shenita Ben Shneosmos. They are wisdom. Now we're going to define what wisdom is a little bit. Wisdom is great. Why? Because it's between, it literally means between two letters. What it actually means is between the two names of Hashem. Shnei Amar, Hikel Deos Hashem. So see that? Deos It's arranged in the middle of Kel and Hashem. So the Gemara says that's incredible if something is given over between two names of the Ribono Shel Olam. Those is Gadol Mikdash. He said Mikdash is rich. Nitan Ben Shnei Osios because it's given over between two names of Hashem. Shnei Mar. Alta Hashem Mikdash Hashem. So it's the Mikdash sandwich between two names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Maski Teravada, Maski Teravada, Karfino Elame Ata Givon the Kama, Shemit Ben Shnei Osios. Oh, you're going to use that model. And the Kama, vengeance. Vengeance is also great because vengeance is given between two names of Hashem. Sid, Kel, Nikamos, Hashem. Right? The Pasuk says, right? Kel, Nikamos, Hashem, Kel, Nikamos, Sophia. Amalei, the Milsei, Hakinam is right. Vengeance has its place. Absolutely. Vengeance, as much as we always think about vengeance as a negative thing, vengeance is not a negative thing. Sometimes vengeance is very powerful and very appropriate. So why do I need two revelations? How far I need like a revelation? So why two revelations? That doesn't say revelation twice. That just says real once. But it says the comma twice. So it's like two revelatory common moments. So what does that mean? So the Gemara says, Achas lemita tova, va'achas lemita paronos. So one ultimately again will take to be like a vengeance for good and a vengeance for bad. So vengeance for good, we pays good. Right, to take revenge means to be what goes it must mean that sometimes like I said before, sometimes vengeance is good. Sometimes vengeance is in our favor, especially when it's taken out of those who have oppressed us. And sometimes vengeance has to be punitive in nature. So I'm Rabbi Lazar, call Adam Shish from there, this is beautiful about. Any person who has there, who has understanding, it's as if the Beis Hamikdash was built for his days. She says, why? She said, because ultimately, again, as we said before, there is between two names of Hashem and Mikdash. Now, what that means, what does that mean? Any person who has there, wisdom, this Mikdash was rebuilt. We come back to that tomorrow, so you can underline it, go back to it. After we get a look at the definition of really what there means. Fine. Okay. Yeah, I can give it a few more minutes. I'm Rabbi Lazar, actually. I'm Rabbi Lazar. Call Adam Shlish from there, the stuff is Hashem. Any person who has there will become wealthy. Shene Amar, will be das Charidim Yimon Kovon, the carving of Rabbi Lazar, of Adam Shein Bo there, Aslu Rasim Allah. Any person who doesn't have there, ultimately, again, you can't have Rachmanas on. Shene Amar, Kilo Am Binasum, Hakim Bo Yirachamenu Osir, Pilchaloi Rabbi Lazar, calls Hanosim Kito Mishain Bo there, Yisrum Banalav, where it gives bread to someone who doesn't have there. Ultimately, again, bad things will happen. So we'll say it's very interesting. So you see this Gemara, you can't have compassion upon someone who doesn't have data. You can't go ahead and give your bread to someone who doesn't have data. They will say, what's the shot of this? What's the shot of this? So we'll say, someone say this now. What's the data? What's this? We translate it. They will say, well, what if you think about this just from just from a basic perspective, what is the core component of wisdom? Right? What is like the most basic part aspect of wisdom? What's wisdom? So it's interesting. Remember, Chazal, right? Remember Sex Brachos. It speaks about Havdalah Shmona Esrei. Chazal said, where did Chazal quote Havdalah? Where does Havdalah go? Atachonim la'adam das. The most basic concept of das is the ability to be ability to distinguish between Kodesh and Chol. Das is the most before you get into all the deeper layers of what wisdom actually means, what wisdom means on its most core level is I can distinguish between right and wrong. I can distinguish between Kodesh and Chol. I can distinguish between Tameh and Tar. And I will say that is something that every single person has the ability to do. You know, to be a Chacham, right? Because remember again, there's Chachma, there's Bina, there's David. So Chachma, Bina, those might be higher levels, and maybe not every person has the ability to access. But to have gas, to be the kind of person who knows what's right and what's wrong, and to make the right decisions in life, every single person has the ability to meet that threshold. And failure to do so is only one person's fault, and that's love. And that's why Chazal says, if somebody doesn't have De'el, don't have Rachmanas on them. Don't have Rachmanas on them. Why? Because they're hurting themselves. They're not a victim of anything. They're hurting themselves. If someone doesn't have De'el, don't give them bread. Right? Why? Why? Because you are enabling an every lifestyle. Because a person has to have basic moral compass through which they know what's right and what's wrong. And if they don't have that, if you help them, you're enabling them to continue on that broken path. And as the verse says over here, as I always says, any person who has data, he will meet them in right? Ultimately, again, this was at the end of the day. There's only really one thing I need in this world to be successful. Data. I have to know what's kosher, what's trade, what's tamei, what's tahar, what's kodesh, what's chol, what's mutter, what's asr, what's tov, what's ra. And as long as I have that, I'm good. I'm good. The rest, I'll acquire or I won't. And as long as I have data, I will be successful. Firstly, if I don't have data, number one, if I don't have data, it's my fault. Don't blame the right words. If I don't have data, it's my fault. So you to acquire it, sometimes not what those things are. The point, you can't even help out a person. It's such an overwhelming and incredible development. And that's how he works this. All right, this is like, right. I'm going to realize that. I'm going to say people in the shape of data. That's why, again, if you give your bread to someone that doesn't have data, you, the giver, will suffer. Why? Because you are enabling someone. You are enabling someone to continue down the wrong path in life. Last time, if I got Simon was right after they told them they must have the switch in Mar. I have to help you. That's what's wrong. I'm going to realize that. Kaladam Shimon Dale, self a goal. That person doesn't have Dale, ultimately to be exiled. Makes a lot of sense. Why? Because I will say, if I don't have Dale, chances are I won't be able to start life. I won't be able to go to relationship. You don't know what's right and what's wrong. You can't build relationships. It's as simple as that. It's almost like there are people who don't have, who refuse, not that they can't, they refuse to see right from wrong. They make every single excuse why what is okay, even though it's not. It's really not. You can't build relationships. You can't build a home. You can't build a life. That's really the self-program. Self-program. Rabbi Wander Shinei Mar, Kachin Gala Amin That's what I'm saying. Provide shaking for the Torah. There's one more about. That's data. That's data. Most of this is those Torah. Any home in which words of Torah are not heard at night, so any home in which there's not Torah learning at night, fire will be Shinei Mar. Street out and Papa, because I'm Shinei with the sweet Hashem Korei. But fine, listen, so what does that mean? Any home in which Torah is not learning at night, fire will consume it. It's a pretty strong. First of all, it tells us, it's very important, in addition to coming to shul for night seder, beautiful inspiration, which again, everybody has an obligation for night seder, even if it's for 15 minutes. Everybody has an obligation for it. So it's not a shame and stuff like that. So you have to, really, it's like I'm not joking around. A youth has to come to his house even if it's just for a couple of minutes. It's stuck. I'm running in front of this package. In addition to that, person also has to live home. Person has to have Torah in their house. Right? And it's so important for so many different reasons. A wife should see her husband learning Torah. Children should see their father learning Torah. Also, my hope should see you learning Torah. So what's the pshat when the Gemara says over here, in any home in which Torah is not heard at night, fire consumes it? Perhaps it's like this. Night is always a metaphor for difficulties. Right? That's like light was always a metaphor for difficulties. That's not learning like this. Cold nights, shame, different Torah nishmor and Torah. Right? So any home in which Torah is not heard at night, whether it's any home when things become difficult, the Torah stops. Right? In other words, as soon as it becomes Laila, as soon as life becomes difficult, the first thing that kind of goes away is Torah. Just understand, fire, not literal fire. Fire is also destructive. Destructive forces will consume it. If during difficult periods of life, the first thing that gets stopped is spirituality, just understand the fire of the negative circumstances will consume that home. The same power of a home, the same power of anything in life, is rooted in its connection to the force. So even during the Lila periods of life, there is Torah in my hands, there is Torah in my life, and I will escape from the ravaging effects of even the most difficult of life circumstances. Conversely, if in the moment that difficulty set in, the first thing that goes is Torah, first thing that stops is Torah, then Isha also. Then the fire of every single difficult circumstance will ultimately consume my home, and consume all the circumstances. So also, I have to stop over this incredible Gemara. I have to stop over here. Shkoyach. Others in the time we did more than a blot today. Fantastic. Wrong blot, but that's a detail. Also, I think tomorrow's going to be our catch-up day. And the session much shorter. Gemara. And the session. Shkoyach, everyone. Such a shkoyach, everyone. That idea. What's the audience? All right. Yeah. All right. It's like you let us. Like one of our sponsors for this inspiration, I think that one of our sponsors for actually because it's not what I saw today, we all the shares are this year. As it's consequent, so for this round, it's hard. And the third approach is for the market. Hagar, I've already long time in Steve, still right now, his father, after having time, sees virtue, then he makes it a holy, and we see that he's very family, many of his see that when he's talking, we don't look at America, all the beer shows that now, he's a fantasy, for all the food shoving, and then talk for these shows. So, especially, all our hostages allow themselves to be successful in all of mass. Because that led us to the fact that has it out of 91. We have a steep climb today. There's a but we're going to make not on something comes in the NDD that got a count out from the top. So we are 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, about 12 lines down, 12 lines at the top. So again, you should have tried to follow. Let's remember again, within the decision of trying to find some type of scriptural illusion, two TSAs. Like the way the business is going to color. So when we get off the last yesterday, it's a concept that says, when you decide that you measure as Shumas Hashem out of the code, which I think Shumas to Aaron. That was very interesting. Aaron received very interesting. The word that we never ever received was Shumas. Why? Because Shumas only goes to affect the entire self, and Aaron would never be into everyone's stuff. So at the end of the day, they want to see. But also, they have to show the Aaron to get the rest of the possibility that there's a set of words that you get some really like very short term of the Aaron. So you have to choose for someone like Aaron. What? It's not Aaron, however, after the Aaron. Just like Aaron is a couple. Just like Aaron is a couple. And therefore, we don't how to go ahead and deal with truth in the appropriate way. So it's going to generally have to be done. I'm not sure if my area is mentioned this is really coming on a tiny bit of Shuma to a confidence here. So then we ask the nation to try message Mars will come to the team like the first complexity with our session. Because again, the possibilities it is even the box to work, the vision is to do for our people as well. So as you call that session, whoever is creating the world each one of us has a portion of the shape of access to our session. They want to not open to the Torah of our Shvachu in the flow of us. Let's not have the portion. And listen, this as a way to see this is not as much purity as it is just very important because Shema has a lot of details. Shema is a lot of applications and misuse of Shema. Because that's how it's going to be. I'm not going to do that. So once you do the prayer waters, you know, it's true that to according to the waters, he knows something they have. It's as if he gives it to a lion. Not something going to called something in the verse. So you know, you put food in front of a lion. There's a something, you know, literally tear it apart to eat it or not. According to Amaret's suffix or clove carol, suffix or clove to it. So to again, we put someone to according to Amaret's suffix. When we eat it for the sake of ritual purity, when you eat it for the sake of ritual impurity. But you also says, according to himself, if one keeps true to a coin Amaret's, it's causing the death of that coin. Shneimar, who makes you whole Kichalin, we also mentioned before, that this use of Truma results in that penalty. You give Truma to a Kohen, it doesn't even have to do with the appropriate safety. It's as if the whole one is causing death to that particular Kohen. So he was, I also read that Torah. After Masir of Ashma, you can cause the Kohen to violate the Rabbi Shneimar as in Sin Osa of Ashma Acharos Kacheh. So it's going to be best out of all of this. It's just enjoying interesting to see how, again, in this case, if you think that giving children to the coin of course is an effective chesed, so giving children to the coin is only a chesed, is only something where if the coin knows what to do with it. If he doesn't know how to handle the gift, then not only is it not a chesed, but in fact it's a lie to bring for him. That tremendously sold in life as well, about when you know, it could be so embarrassing, about giving children things. It's a beautiful drop of our time to give children something as long as what the child knows how to handle it. To give a child something like it be so technology. It was in many areas. To give a child something like a church be nice, but you don't know what to do with it. It's not the parent that you understand it's really tremendous liability. Okay, more than like it. Kind of. But you said our smart says, that is going to be like that. Again, a bit before the so about it. But God, like you see as priests, it's very interesting. Each tongue will say Slochem as Kina. The Pasuk says, I will establish, I will uphold my covenant with them, to give it to them, Lochem, to them, but it does Lochem of them, I will Lochem. Really interesting. The Pasuk doesn't say, the Prophet doesn't say, I'm upholding my covenant to give you Lochem, rather it says Lochem. So then, here's the gate. The direction is rational on the right side. About halfway down, everyone actually did more than everyone, the much which is here, I can start with a see. Abraham, it's called Yaakov, Shemiti, Rohan, Eretz Yisrael. If you were heading with her, how will you be able to go? So the possibility was such a time to the concept that, again, if I can struggle finding the Adam struggle with the life at the time, a reflection of what? Of Lachem, to you. Lachem means to get. Who's the dead? You don't understand the fact that Abraham eats something like that. Abraham's not what they'll get. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't talk to you to Egypt. Can't give you to the king of Israel. And I'd rather, what do you see? They get Abraham eats from Taik, you don't receive Eretz Yisrael. What does that show you? That's what it's. That's what it's. So the Gemara says, you get fight. We can't get this in that beautiful. Show me this what we do. This is this. Really, now things are clean. I mean, if I go up and I say it doesn't really matter. We're going to see, we use the terms, the chorus, I mean, the terms of it. What we're going to see is that they really refer to different levels of characters. Like it says, people who don't believe in certain things, so this is the distinctions. Show me this what we do. So when we enter the book, we understand the chart from the time we say, when we do that, we want to move back again. Cover the head, the next order, even in the next super. It all says, I'm going to read the proofs. The Torah being super. Looking at all the lineage proofs, they reject it. We'll see what happens in that Torah. So number one, what's the guy in that Torah? He said, in called shaking the mother satellite, they come. It's pretty explicit. Isaiah says to Moshe, you're going to live on here again and die. You're living with your father's God. And you are going to arise. Wow, pretty explicit. Yes, it is. So how does he explain it? No. He said, we know. You're going to become a real place. How do you know? The demon can come up as that. Zara. Living hope. So you must be as far as Moshe. You're going to die. And after you die, become Ha'am Hazeh Zara. The people never know. When you die, the people also adopt you to come. Is not point on Moshe by trying to summons blame on the people. Incredible. So you must unity. Okay, so check the first group. Next. Unity. What's the proof of God? The sin of you to Sefer Muvasi Kum. Hakitsu Vanu Shot with Afar. Kikal almost Talaba Shadows will find people. So what's this? It's positive. What you see this phrase? Here to see Hakitsu Vanu Shot with Afar. Those who sleep in the dust. And once again, to wake up, Hakitsu, the vulnerable, and the same place to Hashem. That's a pretty clear statement. Okay, well, some shelter in Tesco. Maybe at some point, Tesco goes back to life. Who did the Tesco bring back to life? That's almost innovation, right? That's the try, the value of try homes. So that's a specific advertiser for it. Next, we have to focus on the seed. If you can't put GIO, and you could go even shorter, don't be very 6 issue. So that was the classic. Your the possibilities of position that shooting. Again, their friends, don't be very 6 shorter. The lips of those who sleep on regulars to death. Lips they will move, and the first that you have once again will speak. There's an incident. The thing of pushing reactions for say the album. There's no so really said so the opera really said that's a real afraid of that. That sometimes when it's up dead, whenever it's when a person dies, if someone says over halacha, now by the way, the heart doesn't just have to be a halacha. What that is when a person dies, and someone says over a piece of their Torah piece, well, the deceased lips, where it says, I'm sorry, those are certainly really beautiful first focus that when it comes to Torah, lessons for the families, that are said over the internet that people are alive by definition. It's the
Yo, how are you?
someone says what is someone says what you say, someone
You hear me?
so don't excuse it. I show her because that's something meaning you have to anything everybody has said. I told her the mirror the fire the point the power أشهد نشبع Hashem Allah will save him. Not since you have Hashem has sworn to give over to you. Now Josh says that whatever it doesn't say Hashem is giving it over to you. The other one doesn't say Ella, Yahed, to them. You can't present in the Torah. But when you see all of your reference to let's say
You don't talk to me.
Can you hear me? To them, who's to them? The assumption is this is Abraham, it's called so the Lord sees this is the picture that Hashem can get that he get the thing will come back to life. And then I'm each of them guys that I'm going to say, but the Lord can only give us it because this is so beautiful. The active came back to life. I put him, I know. Others say that when we talk about the church, everybody can read. And we cling to Hashem and to God, that time can come again. And so it seems to have said this. You will live it fully today, or you are fully alive. And it's the same as you might shoot that. If I took them today, that's not this what he's talking to them. So of course they're alive today. Ella, feel the ocean, call her own and kulam receive. Even at a time when everyone else is dead, you will be alive. So the idea that the emotion is possibly that I would mention it for him. Also, the things you can do to the 12 is kind of come Hayom. Hayom means you will come back to life. That even though a thing where everyone else is dead, you will come back to life. Such a beautiful kind of what you say. So you know, like the Shalom is much the same as that possible as well, but if you just tell them, I'll come back to it later. Shalom is wrong as when you're showing so often the movements after showing the point of the accident, and I should be from the high racing, the idea of so the accident should be family on 2 prime questions. Number one, how do we earn the resurrection of the dead? Number two, how do we live in a shared world? What's going to happen? 2 prime questions. So I'm going to tell that in the present. So ultimately, we should be very good since I can answer both of those questions from one person. And you're so Moshe, in Kashokin I'm not a Secha. It come Ha'amazah Bizarre. So again, when you should have found the person, Moshe, you're going to die, become, and you're going to come back to life. So from here you see a remnant to Trias Halesis. So the Lord said, say back to him until now, the Kama Amazah Bizarre, or to Moshe. It's not a big pasuk. The pasuk is that ultimately Moshe is going to die, that the come doesn't go in Moshe's resurrection. Rabbi, what does the come go on? Come goes on ultimately again, the Christ are going to die. So Rabbi Shimon said, fine, even if you say that, at least according to the Talmud, the again Ashas and Yos. So again, even if you're not going to use this pasuk as a Asen, you can at least use it for what? As he knows, as a scriptural proof that Hashem knows what's going to happen. Right? Because again, here Hashem is saying, Moshe is going to die. And when you die, cloud is from going to the die. Okay, incredible. So when it says, it's where I'm going to show the Shem of the Taik. The Nash is brought home, the kind of sick, the Ashas and Yos. So as he said, as we should learn that I would know what we think to bring back the dead, and how I know that I should know what's going to happen. Shneimar, in the Chal Shochet, in Marosecha, they come. Ultimately, again, Hashem says to Moshe, you are going to die, but you will come back. Incredible. So we want to go back to the time now. I'm not really, as you already know, see, the governs there, Siyachti Sifrim. So the answer said like this, in this remember, the books of the heretics have really fortress, how so? How you only 8 cases in that Torah. Remember again, because of these books of heretics, he said there is no resurrection. There's no resurrection. Alright, so I said to them, Siyachtem Torastem, the Lord had these 7 deaths and killed. So number one, you forged the Torah, and then what? Source Torah over here. Shocked over me, because it is in the Torah, for you claim there is no test like you see. And then it says, Tikaris, and then Shahid, Agonaba. So that's what it means, the double washing of Tikaris. Why the double washing? See what it says. I'm sorry. It's very good translation of Agonaba. Tikaris, for all the myself. Agonaba, anyway. So what's it mean? Tikaris means that the seal cut off from this spot. Agonaba, it's a single root. The Imas, when is that? Not Agonaba. That's not the first thing that's come. So the name C ultimately again, Raya for its destination. So the Gemara says, the current is that let's start out. I'll leave Rabbi. The name of the Taik, the name Taik, the current. So I was saying, why catch the ultimate of the current? The current, in all the ways that the current, the normal Kabbalah, switch the Gemara says, I'm only letting different Torah, I'm not sure many other, because I would accept that, and the meaning would have said, no, that's just a colloquial expression. Okay, keep it on. So what's the example of this? The currents, one of the currents, the Olam, the Rabbi Kiva. So the Kiva says to the Rosh, the currents, be cut off in this world, the currents in the world to come. You know, the Kiva, I want to be small. But look like that, as Hashem, we got to for some, as the Pasuk says, he's blaspheming Hashem will be cut off. That he shows Olam and Yish on the 3 worlds, or his best back is that his 3 expressions are being cut off. So it's going on over here. So let's see, the Nick Ladder, I love the Nick of like that. I'll be cut off from this world. He carries the Olam Abba. See, I explained the person, right? He carries the cut off from the world to come. And he carries the Torah come off Shabbat Adam. This refers to the Torah speaks. Okay? Being a Bishma and a Yekima, Abona Bog by Aki, the both literally Kiva Bishma, pointing to the phrase of Abona Bog, that he said, this is beautiful. Yako Akiva Asachuba, you might have thought that this will be cut off even if it did Shema. So the Imam says, when is the sinner cut off? When? When it's off. When the sin remains within him. However, when it says, Lo Amarti, Elo Bisman Shabanaba. Not how the sinner is cut off is when the sinner remains with him. And if the sinner does Shabbat, then ultimately eventually he's not cut off. Instead of what was said. So really, that's what's okay. So the point that you begin to see is, like I mentioned yesterday, there's no one pasuk that says, yes, I guess, rather what we have is a series of biblical, I should say, biblical allusions. Part of it is different allusions, different things, different vegetables. Beautiful. Let's go back to that finish it. Shalom, Shalom, the Patra, not precise there. Wow. Bring to the Patra. And ask the following question of Rabbi there. I'm not going to say Rabbi, not sure points it out. The petrol is to use or to follow is to kiss. So this is not like this. It's not like you have to start with it, but you have to This is more monarchical title than anything else. But anyway, it's pretty cool. So Cleopatra asked Avra, you tell her that how you shifted. She said, I know that you will come back to life. I know that you will leave God. That's it. That's easy Americans and honest. I would sometimes. I know that everything will come back to life. Which is Cleopatra said, it's interesting what I said. It's Cleopatra. I really can't make some terrible. I know that they will go back to life. Charles the Pastor, he had 16 years. He eats the palace. Because again, the Pastor says that literally there sprout forth from the city, which has the future life, like the grass comes out of the earth. So once again, it's interesting. This passage is actually not quoted in our previous conversations. The Cleopatra quotes this passage. Quotes this passage from the other. I know that the devil will come back to life. So what's the Shiloh? Ella, Kishen, Odu, Odu, Anu, Odu, Shekel. Fascinating. When the dead come back to life, do they come back unclothed, or do they come back in their clothing? Incredible. So I'm about. So the answer is that the master Kabbalah on the feet of the Kabbalah from the claim that you house so the Gemara says, not keep the shit for the Akuma. So the keep the better than tongue coat, in the plant root kernels, when you plant the seeds, it's just the seed, so they don't spot the seed. And yet, no cells become a revolution. Then it comes out with many layers, of clothing. Now, what is that in the layers of clothing? But this is again the kernel itself is has been made as a husk, and it's on top of it. So you see, and just like the seed goes through the first unfold, ultimately again it comes out with many layers. So he writes that Sadiqim Sheikh Baran and the clothing of Sheikh, but Sadiqim ultimately again, who are trying to use their clothing, Allah has come up with it. Now, Sadiq ultimately again does not that clothing, but that is the next round. So the Sadiq is very clothing, all the more so, he will come out clothed as well. So you say, second Cassie, first one, you just say stand, just like a fascination question. I think was actually said, how exactly does this work? So again, come out of the grave. What is it? Controlled, so what's interesting also is could very well be clothing. We see this before in school, often in metaphors for consciousness. So it's because it's like the whole super that get on the bottom, which are not size image type. And all times that your clothing be white, that your clothing be white. So clothing represents a consciousness. So people are the country as people in the shower. What you just translates how you come back, how you be born. How you be born as Kabbalah Russell, like making uncommon, like you like unfortunately not respecting you be like it's actually all that times, or is your resurrected life similar continuity of your previous life? Are you born with your clothing? Or did you come back? And again, I have memories in clothing. I have memories. So again, it's a fascinating question. This resurrection of continuation. I don't see it. Means like come back with my clothing. Or again, I like clothing instead of that new life. Which are the new response. Resurrected life is a continuity of previous life. Which I want to say is so fascinating because what that does is it really urges us to maximize the life we have here in this world. Because the way I live here not only impacts me in this world, not only impacts me home in Haba, which is a place where I go after I die, but it impacts me in resurrected life as well. Everything that I do in this world follows me in multiple stages and generations of my life. Such a profound philosophy. I want to do so video. So the Caesar the video. Caesar the video. I recently shot the Taik. I heard Russia can say that the dead came back to life. I can say it's interesting. In the book of the Palestine, people read it, I guess, and they say, but just had some detailed questions about it. Caesar doesn't believe it. Caesar doesn't believe it. I don't say, you guys say, I'm used to you guys say, shut the Taik, they will come back to life. I'll see how that works. I'll go up front, but I'll come to the Taik. It's just then come back to life. So he was a top house 91 days. Under the Dante, shot the life source. Again, these feelings are fascinating. So the seed of the Caesar Said something to me, don't let me know. I got this. Right? She wanted to answer this particular question. Okay? So she says, so my mind, like, she knows her second one, I'm talking about it, then we go in, second one again. She knows who each people, there are people going to fashioners, creators of stuff. How do you think each video, like Fashion says, each one to me, because of the defenses. The defenses is nothing looks to me like nothing looks to me like you that one creates utensils from her, and one creates utensils from a cloak. So it's a little sugar. You got it. See the parts of course, and then it shows what I like. Of course, there's a much greater heat.
That's fine. But why?
So I said, fascist people before it. Now what does that mean to you? It's better to say it. Proper seats, which creates a so performance in life, but life and water, and a lot has kind of become a things. It was like, it's a kind of piece of potential for more than this was right. Then I use potential for right. I can spot it both that I don't use, like, both from water, so you go ahead.
First,
Conversation process go. Short-term come from the speakers. People come over from the regional class. First, yes, I was not this shop on the bus of the how is glass made? It's real glass. The whole glass is made with breath up there. And each back around. And this glass breaks. You can go down with pressure. Let's have a motion to try to explore about this area. No, it's made yet of a ship. Like you have to handle, right? The ship you like because Allah has come with it. Like the more so, or the more so, that if it breaks, so to speak, and downs, and you put it back together, such as the sun can do it. How many of you know what I'm so it's like also just that there's so much to say about each of these words because each of these statements are tremendous metaphors with this different aspects of our lives that can hold I don't know so we'll come back to it because I'm going to mention it. First I thought, so what a particular not from the government, which I used to say shut you guys say that the next life was the heart of the after the highway, and the next dust, and healthy dust constantly in the national life. However, I'm sure the commercial market for the commercial, if I left parts of that, some of us have been commercial. So it's what's it and even the essential service, the whole how to use them, the more in my offer. Go and go through the There's young water, there's no dirt, there's trees, many people. Alice, I need you to figure that. All things bother us. So, about Hashem, the subjects were figure out the book of the flowers. The young, nothing. Sometime later, the cows fall down. Otherwise, so the king says to the subjects, cause you also the Muslim huge offer. I want you to rewrite the flowers, but this time I want you to look in the place where there is water and there is dirt. Tell me, well, that's a pretty good proposal. And the subjects are you can't do it all people can do it. So Thomas on it. The king, the pastor, and the event. Rather than the Malcolm Shimon offer, they use him. Actually, Shimon offer Allah has come and so he sounds dead. You were able to compare this when there was water and dirt. You made it float off. Now they're giving you water and dirt and can't float off. So it's like, what's the themselves? That's why it's made from nothing. Which the program will work from this. So that's why we think from nothing, and people imagine that it's still something. So if you can create from nothing, you're sort of create something. That would mean about the essence. In that is idea of something turning into something else. Same with it, but go out into the valley. And if they see this particular type of clothing, shall know that that's a concept of it. So it's this line of discussion is going to be about what they're talking about. Because I was talking about the ways that herb is half flesh and half fur. When transformed from earth into flesh. Shema Kama is many, but maybe it's in this lifetime. What is really type of transformation? Allah Ha'adon is pronounced first white line. Shayom able to do also. Everything else in that part. It seems to be limited. That on this stage is only one to us. Most limited to us is that future from which the Taik is created. So you know from them as much as us. You know from the idea to show that the next stable page. And it's smelling of photos, over here and after and filled with muscles. So again, the idea over here is the idea over here. Number one, that earth could turn into flesh. Like something could turn into nothing. From the earth, again, things could sprout as evidenced by the muscles. It's incredible. And also, there is a tremendous profundity in it, much more about the same. And then the much of the thing will have you essentially such as the palace. And some of the there's nothing. There's no dirt, there's no water. There's no dirt, there's no water. And it's subject to this palace falls down sometime later, and then the king says, we're going to build the palace. And the palace are literally drinking water. And it's subject to saying we can't be impossible. And so what are you talking about? The palace is nothing, it's going to be the palace with drinking water. And the metaphor is as follows. Listen, all of us have times in life when we are pushed to accomplish things we do not think we can accomplish. Right, our back is up against the wall, we face circumstances, difficult circumstances, and little bit of then, we pull the proverbial rabbit out of the hat. We did it. We did it. Hashem. Really difficult circumstances, really questions for what we do circumstances, and I can see I did it. And yet today, we have times day to day, when the circumstances are impossible, and I don't get it. And I tell myself, I can't do it. I can't do it. Remember that time that you can put in possible circumstances? Remember that incredible stressful circumstance where it wasn't clear if you would succeed or not, if you knew what you could do. If you could succeed in difficult, literally impossible circumstances, if you could build the personalistic palace with no water and no dirt, there are a lot of time of the time day to day, when the circumstances are not difficult, you certainly keep everything true. There was a lot of situations like this. When you get difficult situations, there are situations like this. I think almost all of us have situations like this. Really difficult circumstances. But I said to myself, I don't really know how to do this. And I got through it. And it worked best. And it grew. It was like we do that in these circumstances in life. So you could perform in things in life. If I could make things happen, and there was no water, the most likely to build a personalistic palace where there is no water. Instead of being so silly, you don't look like that. Only I let you know that you have this great series of stories. Let's take another one. We said to be a fantasy, so that's his name. The real fantasy, so that goes out from here. Not sure, but had several harmonious examples. But interesting enough, so he's kind of unique fantasy stuff. Himself was a Schmickeltown father, and he was a hunchback. We're going to see that part of the story in a little bit. Rashi puts out here. He was a hunchback. Okay, so what happened? So it was a man who came over to him. And this man said to him, find the home, you're private. And I'm so missing tired. The finding you see, finding. So they went to this happy place. So just to read it. He says, what's the matter with you guys? Speaking of that truth, right? All these people shine. You're shine. Why are you shine? Because you espouse false ideology. You say that the dead come back to life. It's not possible. It's not possible. That which is alive does. You possibly see that which is dead comes back to life. Another, so the vehicle has his response. If I perform exactly, you're not shine. Yeah, I mean, so see what kind of. They're all Hadikaya. So it says, the vehicle is sent back to Rabbi, this is not Russia. I'll tell you why. That which is not alive does come back to life. Every birth, how does every birth start? It wasn't life, and then it life occurs. So you see, by definition, the simple propagation of the species requires no life to life. So you have a paradigm. So what are you talking about? You're not in Russia. There's no for every single life starts with no life and goes to life. So what's crazy to think that you go back to life? So we have a Caesar, we call this Apicolis, and we call this Apicolis of Russia. Other way, practically, we have Apicolis in Caesar. You call me Russia, you tell me you're only fine, you know that, when you want someone's talking about that, it has the one to do. But you know, the follow flash, you know, like the Sefer. And you took me so hard that I was this is like this is incredible, right? People are people, nothing to each other, right? You like my friends will do that. You saw that you straight like that. If you get that, so you see something like I told you, you say make that video, it's blood. You start how they put on. Do it, man. Let's do it. Absolutely. If you do that, I will give you a shot. Not only will I give you a shot, but I can give you a ransom of money. It's okay. It's okay. For that is incredible. So if I cannot want to, say, that's our introduction to the CISA. The next time I started with the CISA as well. I worked with this something fascinating, just about a personality. That's what I got Lisa. On the 24th of Lisa, it's the 18th. Seniority in Shanghai. So those are our professors. Our professors left the UK in Shanghai. That's the important professors when we talk about. So watch this. So Shibawe, Africa, how do they start? When the people of Africa came to the Romans, it's a people claim against Jewish people, always that way. Anyway, so let's say Alexander's most notable. So I can actually before Alexander, Alexander Macedonia, right? So not Rome, right? But they came before Alexander Macedonia, before the King John. So and that's came up to Charlotte. So that by the way, Jews like Alexander. Like I know Jews like Alexander. But they also Jews like Alexander, which is the strangest thing in the world. I don't mean English name. I mean like the Hebrew name Alexander, like, which is very strange. Alexander Yiddish, but you like it's not but again, this was outside concept of the Jews had that goes out there to the Greek, the name stuff. So people of Africa come with a big Torah against the Jews. Oh no, Eretz Kenyan Shabbat. What's the claim? The guys of Kenyan wants us, what's it? Before I point out, there is nothing that we under the sun. Any Kadosh Katas Hashemesh. Right? So before there was a hate, right, national, right, before there was any of these other mechanisms, the nations of the world were always bringing their legal claims against the Jewish people to say we don't own the land. By the way, Africa is a pretty big place. Africa is a pretty big place. And it's still not so big. But we wonder again, what does Africa need with Israel? What did you need another desert? But again, listen, this is the death of humanity. The death of humanity is they cannot leave from Israel alone. They won't bear that Jews has it puts us to see because it's like that the world is changed and of each other and the same other relatives and including the religion has been born to see the reflect, you see that as the one place. And again, it's actually very funny. The world can't, for some reason, can't be so bad that Jews have something. All the ones that Jews can defend themselves, Jews can stand up for themselves. And so again, it's a couple of arguments for me. It's ours. They're more what's the thing. You see, I think that you're right in the middle of these from Africans. You see, Eretz Canaan says that the land of Canaan is including all of the boundaries, so all the boundaries. Canaan, so therefore it means that Canaan has part of essentially Africa, or the Africa. Canaan is included in this as well. Canaan are doing the Hanal of Israel, our godfather. Right, meaning that Canaan is the father of Arosh, of Ham, so the Africans say this is not father, so because he was our father, we live in this land. So as I said again, so this was the idea. This was a clean and walk before Alexander the Great. The Jews have to not defend with their claim to Palestine, Alexander Israel. I want to hear that Caesar. So the real that Caesar going and says, I'm going to place it for some comment to you should stay with God anymore. Let me argue this case on behalf of the Jewish people. Now watch this. For me, I'm going to have to show them this exactly. So if I lose, the good thing is really hard because it just said, kind of was it, but you see these stages. To hear that the seesaw was not recognized as one of the medicine stages. That's not that happens like that. Therefore, it says, if I lose the case, let it appeal, because whatever, you can say, I want to represent the us, right? Just say, yeah, the book, right? The applicant, the defeat is just like that. You might be able to say, I hold some, and just begin to see the beauty and the powers of the personality of the being that is itself, that all of this was beautiful that Torah. This is my first part. To give the business a serve self as an ambassador of the holy workshops. If I lose, I lost in life. And if I win, then it's the people that shut all up incredibly selfless. Okay, so that's the just all about the part. Okay, so guess what? This is from the Rabbi. He represents Christ or Prophet Alexander the Great. So the advocates will be bringing the proof of the Torah. And the Torah is just saying, I'm find people asking of the Raya element of Torah. I subscribe to Torah for the position, but no matter. All you Kinan, Kinan is cursed, and Kinan should be a slave to his brothers. If that's the case, so again, Zebra was here.
How are you?
The children of Kinan. Kinan was cursed. Kinan and Rabbi. Evan remained a husband. Evan acquired property.
I'm saying hello. How are you?
Because the Evan himself belonged to. Alone, not only that, so furthermore, then you guys owe us back wages, back service. Why? Because we're the slaves to God Israel, and what? We're not going to owe you for years. So not only you not owe rent, right? But we owe you, and you owe us back means for all of your delivery service. Okay? So what happened? I mean, Alexander Melka, Zula Juba. So how are you? What's the, you know, what's your response? I mean, let's smash what's together.
Greedy, how'd you find out about me?
Give us come back to the answer. No, so it's not. No time clock, even though what's the Juba. It's all for very research. But they
How'd you find out about me?
You have problems, you have to get rid of it. And what happens is you start to say you share it to us.
Where?
You share it to us. Yeah, I know it's right. That's interesting. So I already again.
Oh, you found out about me?
And reading fingers, and what says, oh, it's a shot,
Very well. Excellent, man. Yeah, I know who did it.
So not only the crowds will succeed, but ultimately, while we sell, went ahead and had to succeed themselves, even getting a shoot together. So I'll say, so again, what's the so this? Like, it's fantastic story. What's the message? Those are the two messages. Number one, that Jews should not be bashful or apologetic about what's ours. What is ours? We have very little in this world. And the little bit that we have is ours. Or we should not be ashamed to defend it, or we should not be ashamed to assert our ownership over it. Nor should we be apologetic about the fact that the truck gave to us and diligently not give it to others. When we choose unapologetic, so ultimately that weakness is wicked, it parents the heart. Virtues are proud, virtues are direct, and virtues assert their sovereignty over that which is ours. That is when things come together. Number two, when you
Correct, yes.
for self-serving, artistically, for social purposes, but you do it to others powerfully. Excellent.
You are what?
So I want to put something out, by the way. Did you think about it? It's interesting to note.
All right,
like,
well, that's cool.
This kid was like a whole chef. Right? Welcome to my toilet.
Baller, dog.
So he calls a bus. He calls a bus like it's not a complicated Russia. It's very complicated Russia. Why couldn't other people come up with this? I don't know what it is, but on a very simple level. We do businesses in a very simple level. It's not about me. It's not about me. This is about your show. When you do things for the right purposes, specifically for the common purpose, things come together. Be unapologetic about what is ours.
How'd you fancy football do?
Do things for the right purposes, and things come together. Yes.
How's your fancy football team do?
Well, we started by the historiography Alexander Melka. So once again, now the Egyptians brought a court case. Let's say this is a little bit it's new things that like the nations of the world bring legal proceedings against the Jewish people. It's not true. It's not true. The Africans did it, and we said again, like to be correct.
Yo, dog, I'm still here, don't worry.
This passage says how the world is so certain, right? Who was at the forefront of the claims of genocide against the state of Israel. Just put out to see certain things. They just are.
Do you know who Joey Diaz is?
And once the most defeat that the world changes, the really does.
Do you know who Joey Diaz is?
The world really much is the same,
That's okay.
especially as hatred for God. So,
Shouldn't happen.
next case. Who knows not on the Alexander with Egypt. I love Harim Umrah. Sorry, Umrah, but Shana Sansina Amadei, Jadashi. To move on,
Well, you're always welcome here.
It's actually pretty good, right? So the Pasuk said, when we left Mitzrayim, the Pasuk says, in the end of what coming up to this, the Pasuk says, Hashem gave the people of the Israel in the eyes of the Egyptians by Yashua. Now, by Yashua, in the is a Pharaoh,
Right?
big Pharaoh. Now, it's always just like that word. Some say in the past, right? Others say
What do you mean?
Pharaoh. Now, the Egyptians are clearly coming with that idea that it means Pharaoh, which means constant Pharaoh. A whole lot of silver and gold from the Egyptians. Which the Egyptians say,
It's on YouTube.
Right? We'd like our stuff back. We'd like our stuff back. Okay? So the Gemara says, I'm going to believe that the Sisa. So the view that the Sisa says, that the following two Egyptians made it, but I don't want it. But the Alexander said, so the view that the Sisa says, do me a favor, it sits the rabbis, I'll deal with this. You trust, I'll deal with it.
Yep, I'm on YouTube.
I'll move on, and I go check out them, say if I'm successful at our time, if they victorious.
Correct. Yeah, go into the stream in the upper left hand corner. You see red circle.
It's just a regular guy.
It says 24/7 YouTube stream. Click
Click
that, it'll take you to my stream.
Torah's Moshe Exactly. And ultimately, the glory of the people not to the glory of the people ultimately get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So just all of them are right. That is, we see shows of today's thing.
I'm on all of them. I'm on all of them on YouTube.
Egyptians, what's your right? What's your proof? I'm going to Torah. I saw the Egyptians and we told you by Hashem. You borrowed stuff from us. So, okay, you should buy that. You talk like this. You know, you want stuff back. So, you know, see, says, I'm the land. I'm
like they're fucking long lost
Moshe Israel, Hashem Israel, Shloshim Shorim Ba'arba Be'os Shom. The Jews were in Egypt for 430 years. The 430 years were get back.
Oh, you've been doing it a month?
That's
nice.
So, never 130 years. It's no matter. Schar Avodah, Shoshim, Shloshim Ba'arba Be'os Shom. So, here he says, having a problem. You see, oh, the golden soil, okay. You also was back with the Jews for 600,000 years.
Yeah.
Well, just go do some breaks for capital there. Right, let's go like that. Let's settle up. Back with the Jews for 400 years. They have no people. And they're happy to go ahead and settle up. So what happens? Some of them are Alexander don't know. That's your Jew. So Alexander was the side 7 years since Egyptian. Okay, so what do you have to say? To know about the Spanish Moshe. So give us 3 days, we'll come back. So that's on Shlosh Side. Outside of Allah and the side. About to come on Master Shuvah. So ultimately, again, they searched for 3 days, they couldn't find an answer. The Nichu Sado saying, Kishen Zuos, the Karmeni Kishen Zuos, Ubal. They left behind the fields, right? The waving fields, waving fingers. Also, Shosh decides up. And it was a shame. The parallels, which you said, us. What's that? It's not like that's very interesting. Why is it that both the Africans and the Egyptians run away? Like, why don't you always come back? Be there. Right? And say, you know what the answer. I was like, here's the difference. At the end of the day, when you're arguing for MS, if you don't have an answer, you come back and say, right, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer. When you recognize that what you're doing is smoking mirrors, and only attempt to rob people of what is right from the theirs, you don't even have the backbone to show back up in court. And that's the one teaching us over here. He's one of the claims. Right? Because if you really have it, one second. Like in every court case, someone wins, someone loses. That's the way it works. You can't go all you want is just a fair shake, recognizing that you might win, you might lose. When you can't even show back up, when you can't even show your face again, and you can't even follow back up, that shows the emptiness of your claims to begin with. It's so profound.
Yo, man, dog.
Shmuel, that's incredible. I guess what it's every time you jump over that guy over there. So who comes? Sometimes Shmuel, the Torah. Not in Israel, such as well. So what's the Shmuel's claim? What's that? Okay, Eretz Kinyan Shalom. Okay, yeah, let's do this, right? Let's do this, right? So the Shmuel say Eretz Kinyan is ours. So what happened? It was interesting. The Shmuel goes with a different claim. They say Eretz Yisrael Shalanu v'Shalachem. Right? So it's interesting. The Shmuel in this context says, we're not saying it's solely ours, we're saying it's also ours. This is very different, right? Africans claim all ours, right? Canadian claim, right? This one which I wanted back, which is regularly what we claim. Right? At the end of the day, so it's interesting, the Shmuel, we see why Shmuel's in this one. Shmuel says, we're not claiming it's all ours. We're just claiming the partners in it. The partners in it, why? So the Gemara says, it's the air told us Shmuel ben Avram. It's the air told us he said ben Avram. So again, what's Shmuel's claim? By the way, Shmuel's claim is not a bad claim. Right? What's Shmuel's claim? We're also children of Avram. We're also children of Avram. The land was given to Avram. We were the children of Avram. So why should we not have a share in Eretz Canaan? So once again, I want to review that this is not funny. Jews going to look at everyone, but they also they both know. So once again, see if you see something. Kevin, let me do this. I'll let you do it. I'll do it. Maybe that's good. I'm going to have to I'm something. I'm so ultimately, I guess what really says if I lose, I can see the camera. If I win, it's Torah that has more victory. So what happens? I'm going to come out there, so it says to me, Shmuel, what's he got? What's your proof? I'm going to go, I'm going to start again, we just quoted it. We know, okay, we're talking about it. I'm right after the Torah. I was going to go to Shemar, but you did ask me as much as I'm Yitzchak. How do you make everything on Yitzchak? We have the Shema Shari about my son, Abba Matanos. And I have the children of the concubines, and make it to God. He gave them Matanos. And then it says, by Shalachim, they are Yitzchak below. He sent them away. He sent them away. Our mistake, Mara says, Nasser Abbas, he doesn't have purpose. Action, I got him, the part of the Chayyim. She gives me out there. One Yish was set outside. If a father gives gifts to a son and then sends that son away, that's the sent away son. That's
I heard that right now that it's something. I'm going to go back there.
Send them away.
Take care, man. Thank you very much.
So the Gemara says as follows. I know my father, one of my brothers, the money should not have sorcery. So he goes to say, and I think just the what I want to point out was fascinating about that story is if you notice, the conversation ends there. Right? It's not like the Egyptians said, I'm sorry, Shmuel says, we need 3 years for it to come back. Because you get that this is Raya was so compelling, it's like a mic drop. That was it. That was the end of the story right then and there. Yes, your father is the son of Adam of you. And Abba loved your father as well. But Adam gave your father gifts. He gave him stuff and then he sent them away. When a father sends a son away, that means he doesn't want the second son, that means he was the first son. Hashem did not want Yitzchak, and Adam did not want Yitzchak and Israel. Actually, Adam didn't want Yitzchak and Israel to go together. Sarah did it. Hashem said to Adam, listen to Sarah. So therefore, again, you have no after Ishmael. You have Ishmael. You have no king in the Eretz Yisrael. That's the end of the story. If you notice that it's different in this version of the story, Ishmael accepts it. There's no let's get back to you, and it's totally so good. Absolutely incredible. I guess we'll have to we're going to start the for today. Again, listen, we couldn't possibly go any faster. You can't go any faster. There's too much we can start looking at. So I'll start over for today. Straight up, we'll pick up in the earth over the bottom of talking about tomorrow. More incredible, dramatic, and overwhelming tomorrow. Straight up, my Lord. we hope some respond to the identification. All right, so it's like, good morning, let us begin. We invite all of our sponsors for this morning to thank our total sponsors for production day. Hey, we've also spoken about some dedicating all the show productions this year as his host for Source Global Strategies. And the first sponsors for the month of Hadar, Abalim Latoa Tari and Steve Zim, loving memory of Tari's father, Dr. Harry Khan, C. Hirsch, Ben Joseph Hakonian, and the Ziv of Levin and Berman families, memory of Mr. William Ziv, Ben Shmuel Yisrael, and Merit Matan Torah. All of the Nisham Slavon, the families in the from all those who were Fush Shabbat, and for being strong. Hashem Shemer, Hashem, bring all of our messages and allow our souls to be successful and whole and massive again. Was with that, let us begin. Today's daf is Taik out of 91. We have our new coin. And so, what's going to make? Such a convening today. I got to count down from the top. So we are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, about 12 lines down from the top. The day that we should So again, the Shira is what to follow. Let's just remember again, we're trying to find some type of scriptural allusion to Tchias HaMesim. Right, so when we let us choose this in the Torah. So when we ended off last yesterday, there is a passage that says, Satan Mimenu as Shumas Hashem Aaron HaKohen. You shall give Shuma to Aaron. And I remember it's very interesting. Aaron received many things in life. The one thing he never ever received was Shuma. Why? Because he only goes to the second by himself, and Aaron never made into Eretz Yisrael. So at the end of the day, they welcome this movie. Then ultimately, again, they give Shuma to Aaron. So remember again, and mostly that the pasuk means that Tchias HaMesim. So the Gemara says the day the Gemara goes by the very short time about Aaron. So what does it mean? You have to give Shuma to someone like Aaron. You mean what? Not Aaron, Chaver, Achban, or Chaver. Just like Aaron is Chaver, right? Just like Aaron gives Tom Chacham. And therefore, knows to go ahead and deal with Truma in the appropriate way. So to again, generally have to be done the Chaver. I'm not sure I'm not going to say. The nice shame is that you will play in our Aretz. I didn't have to give Truma to a Kohen who is ignorant. שנאמר, ביען מיושי ישריים נוסף, ממש בכל המבין ובשחס, יחזקו בתור השחר. Because again, the way the Pasuk phrases it is, you give the Quran control, that they should be strong in the Torah also the Torah. Whoever is holding Rabbi in the Torah, has a portion in Torah. The Shem Maxic Torah Hashem. Whoever does not be strong in the Torah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in Monadas, does not have a portion. And then also, this is not as much punitive as it is just very important because Truma has a lot of details. Truma has a lot about the details that we need to use Truma to bring the chance. That's how it's going on. I'm going to back about and I'm going to leave that. When I listen to the prayer of Aretz, to use Truma, to a coin with an Aretz, to know something from the Ari. It's as if he gives it to a life. Ma'ari, something very strong, or something in a very strong way. When you put food in front of a lion, there's a something. Will it tear it apart to eat it or not? After point, I'm something called Paro, something called Tuma. So to a day, when you give something, you do too much of a coin, I'm honest, something. Will we eat it in a state of ritual purity? Will we eat it in a state of ritual impurity? And Yochanan says, I'm going with this. The point is too much of a coin, I'm honest, causing the death of that coin. How is that? First, married. In Besu, both here having the as mentioned before, that misuse of Truma results in death penalty. You give Truma to a coin, doesn't even have to treat it with your phone at the same time. You have warning and death to that particular coin. So you might later on also have to follow. After the seal of a Hashem. You can force the point to buy each other in a Shem, as we see also of a Hashem of all this country. So it's really fascinating about all of this is. And just really interesting to see how, again, in these cases, you would think that given too much of the coin, of course, So giving Truma to the Kohen is only a chesed, it's only something, but if the Kohen knows what to do with it. If he doesn't know how to handle the kid, then that's only his chesed, and the fact it's a liability for him. I tremendously sold the range as well about the digital really started parenting, about giving children things. It's a beautiful process for a parent to give children something as long as wants. The child knows how to handle it. To give a child something that can take the sort of technology. So there are many areas. To teach a child something I mean, just don't know what to do with it. It's not the fact that it's for the speed to learn this liability. It's more like kind of, let me say what I said. That is my question. We find again a biblical illusion to prepare something. Shinevar, the Gamma can only see as basic, which is a Eton will cease for him as killed. The Pasuk says, and I will establish, I will uphold my personal covenant with them to give to them, Lahem, to them, right? Because Lahem, I will Lahem. It's very interesting. The Pasuk doesn't say it, the Pasuk doesn't say, no, I'm upholding that covenant to give you Lahem, rather it's Lahem to them. Who is the Rashi? The Rashi on the right side. About that point now, Elohim, I'm not sure if you have talking about the Satan. Abram is talking about Yaakov, so Abraham had it himself. Abraham took off, I'm going to be on it though. So the question is to say was such a change to the concept that again, if I have trouble starting to uninstall was alive at the time, it would be flushing of what? Of Lachem. Lachem, who's the dead? Mom. Even if every spectacle, they were dead. They were long dead by that time. Dead into his self. And rather, what do you see? They also say that Adam eats stuff and will receive other cells. What does that show you? That's something. That's something. So the Gemara says, that's fine. You can't text this beautiful showiness of number. This is the meaning of it. I mean, it's like not because it's only person who is not true. We're going to see, we use the terms in colors, but we're going to do that really refer to different levels of how to fix my say. People who don't believe these certain things, so it's the distinctions. Some meanings of the umbrella. So the meanings of the umbrella, the nice set of the Hadisi, the word you know, they also bring back the dead, the Torah, the idea of the incredible. The Mill says, I'm going to give you a proof. So Torah being super. Don't give away with that. All of those proofs, they reject it. We'll see what happens. That's all. So number one, what's the value of the Sid? And our Shalom Moshe, in the Cholos, show faith to the Temple Stefan, they come. It's pretty explicit. Hashem says to Moshe, you're going to live and die, you're going to leave with your forefathers to come. And you are going to arise. Wow, pretty explicit. So how do they explain it? No. Instead of the leaders, you're putting the comma in the wrong place. No, the Dilma, the Kam Ha'am Hazet, Zana. No, what do you think the Pasuk is as follows? Moshe, you're going to die. And after you die, the Kam Ha'am Hazet, Zana. The people are going to rebel. When you die, the people who are showing doctrine to become is not going on Moshe, but trying to become is going on the people. Incredible. So the Martinality, next, what's the difference of it? Let's say that you step up the Rasi, you run a show for the outside. You tell Oros, Kalaka, the areas of 5 people. So what's it say? This was when you see this phrase. The phrase you see, Kakitsu, Barananu, Shofne, Afar. Those who sleep in the dust, but once again wake up, Kakitsu, they're running up to the secrets to Hashem. That's a pretty clear statement. The Doma is some Shefne Festo. Maybe that's referring to the fact that the Festo brought back to life. Who did the Festo bring back to life? That's the Examos Elation, right? That's the value of dry bones. So that's a specific episode. Next, from Tzibim, the same, if you check out Giana Tov, holy if we don't even insure it, Dovave, Sifsei, Shir, the Pasuk makes reference to Shir Hashem. Don't make in that phrase. Dovave Sifsei, the lips of those who sleep will move. Sleep are reference to death. Lips, they will move, meaning the reference that once again they'll sleep. Okay, so listen, we talk about pushing national for say the album. You want to see the room. The meaning said, the Yochanan, the meaning said, through the meaning is like that's actually the meal. This refers to the fact that sometimes the lips of the dead move in the grave. Now, when the lips of the dead move in the grave, the Gemara says, good Yochanan, Yochanan is so beautiful. You should be showing us, all right? Come, she never had one of the Shema of all of us. This is so together. So beautiful. Whenever when a person dies, if someone says over a halacha, by the way, halacha doesn't just have to be the halacha. What that means is when a person dies, if someone says over a piece of their Torah in this world, the deceased lips move in the grave. So the Gemara says, שנאמר, I'm sorry, שתזכור דבר, הסכם שנאמר, לא say אישה. Those are some really beautiful. First of all, this idea that when a person is over Torah, the person is over message for the guy, the person is over the sotos that are sent over even after they are really going to provide, by definition, it gives them the continued key, continued life, continued eternality in this world. So a person dies, someone says over the Torah, someone says over the thing, someone says over the Torah, the lips move in the incredible. I show on the process. So the meaning, you're not going to anything else than this, right? Until over the real kingdom, because the parliament, always the parliament will come. Hashem Yishpach, Hashem Lavosechem, Vaseis Lahem. So again, reference to this again, that Hashem has sworn to give over to you. Now it's actually say to them. Lachem Lahem, right? It doesn't say Hashem is giving over to you. Other ones don't say Ella Lahem, to them. You come with Chesanis in the Torah. So from there you see ultimately again a reference to Chesanis in the Torah. Incredible, because once again, you're giving over to them. Who's the them? The assumption is this is Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So from there you see an explicit allusion to this idea that Hashem that again the dead will come back to life. Then what you show me to make us that I don't know how to say that we want to one different concept because it's so beautiful. The atem had taken by Hashem of Hashem, Chayim Kulchem Hayom. Others say, and it's from this passage, now literally translated, what does it mean? And you cling to Hashem Yekar, right? Chayim Kulchem Hayom. So it seems in the translate this, you will live fully today, or you are fully alive today. It says in the Gemara, Shita, the Chayim Kulchem Hayom. That's how these Moshe is talking today. So of course they're alive today. Even at a time where everyone else is dead, you will be alive. So the idea that really much in this passage is that there are the rest of the ultimately again, you can call to authority, Chayim Kulchem Hayom. Hayom means you will come back to life. That even on a day where everyone else is dead, you will come back to life. Such a beautiful and terrible Yisrael. So you want to write Shalom. There's much to say about that passage, but if you have time, I'll come back to it later. Shalom, Rabbi asked Yeshua and Hananiah. So ultimately, the Romans asked Yeshua and Hananiah, what did they ask? United States from the Hasid, they are Gamma Shahas. So they asked Yeshua and Hananiah a two-pronged question. Number one, how do we know the resurrection of the dead? And number two, how do we know that Hashem knows what's going to happen? Two-pronged question. So ultimately again, Hashem says, I can answer both of those questions. From one pasuk, the Yoresh Moshe, so again, Moshe, you're going to die, you come, and you're going to come back to life. So from here you see a remnant of two Tchias Lamesim. So if you say back to him, the Kilma, the Kama Amazet, okay, it's not a big pasuk. The big pasuk is that ultimately Moshe is going to die. The Become doesn't call Moshe's resurrection. Rather, what does Become go on? Become goes on ultimately, and the guys are going to rebel. So Rabbi said, fine, even if you say that, at least the groups in the power of Rabbi, they are not Ashas. Yes. So again, even if you're not going to use this concept of resurrection, you can at least use it for what? As a memory, as a spiritual book that Hashem knows what's going to happen. Right? Because again, Hashem is saying, Moshe, you're going to die. And when you die, Klal Yisrael is going to rebel. Okay, incredible. The Gemara says, "That's why I'm going to go should be okay." Guy, the national problem, the fact that the Dimash Asatios was his Yochanan asked him, "Shema, how do I know? Well, we have to bring back the dead. How do I know that I should know this was going to happen?" Shneimar, Incha Shochet Sefa Pekah. Ultimately, again, as it says in Moshe Rabbeinu, you are going to die, but you will come back. Incredible. So the Gemara goes right to time. Now, I'm not really as Rabbi Yossi. It covers that. Siyati Sifrei. So the answer says like this: in this matter, the books of the heretics have really been their fortunes. Their fortunes. How so? How you open? Ain't this anything in the Torah? Remember again, because these books of heresy said there is no resurrection. There is no resurrection. All right, so I said to them, "Siyastem Torastem, below at least so everyone who forged the Torah, and it didn't work. So what's going on here? Starting over the Tchesanis in the Torah, for you claim there is no Tchesanis, and yet it is for you. Omer, Karis, Benefa Shahin, Avonaba. So I say there is a double Lashon of Karis. Why is it double Lashon? Because it says, I'm sorry. Karis is actually Avonaba. Karis for all the myself. Avonaba, anyway. So what's it mean? Karis means that the sin will be cut off from this world. Avonaba, it's a sin will remain with it. That you must understand. Rabbi, that's not referred to what's come. So when you see ultimately again, Raya 4 Tchesanis. So the Gemara says, "Karis, and after I'm sorry, I'm only a couple of Rabbi. So let me look at Rabbi. Make Karis. So I understand why can't you look at that as Karis? Karis in all of myself. Karis in all of my bosh, which the Gemara says, "Unrelayed, Libra Torah to Russia." So it said that the community would have said, "No, that's just a colloquial expression." Okay, so most of the people don't get Karis, Muhammad, Karis, Muhammad, the Rabbi Akiva. So the Akiva, he says in the Moshe, Karis, he cut off in his mouth. Karis in the world to come. The Rabbi Akiva, I'm not really small. I look for my man, as Hashem, who I think in the first song, the Pasuk says, in blasphemy Hashem will be cut off. The Hishkosha Olam and Gish are there three worlds. In other words, that means that there's three expressions that can be cut off. So it's my own over here. So I'm going to say, rather, Elo, Benifas, all of us that. I'll be cut off from this world. He can't see all of my body. Right? He can't be cut off from the world to come. And he can't see this refers to the Torah speaks. Okay? What do you do with the phrase of Avonah? It's beautiful. You might have thought that this is going to be cut off even if you did Shuvah. So the Gemara says, when is the sin cut off? When you read, when it's Avonah, when the sin remains within him. However, the verse says, so anytime the sin is cut off is when the sin remains within him. But if the sin does Shuvah, then ultimately again he is not cut off. We kind of like we'll say. So really fast. So again, what the point that you begin to see is that there's no one pasuk that says there's Tchesanis. Rather, what we have is a series of biblical, I should say, biblical allusions, Torah being different allusions, different hints, different ideas. Beautiful. Let's go back. We're not finished yet. Shabbos is this Gemara. Shala Cleopatra Malchus is every day. Wow. Queen Cleopatra. Queen Cleopatra asked the following question of Rabbi Meir. Amra, what's the Bible that you know? My show points this out. Cleopatra is the queen's, but Paro is the king. So this is not like a this or starting with Cleopatra is a particular person. This is more of a Rabbi trust that you see from this and shots. This is more of an title than anything else. But anyway, it's pretty cool. So Cleopatra asks Rabbi Amra, there's done the Taik shift. She said, I know that the dead will come back to life. Sorry, I know that the living died. That's it. We have seen mere case of honest. At least, I'm sorry. I know that the living will come back to life. So Cleopatra said, I see she's able to say, Cleopatra, I believe in Tchesanis. Incredible. I know that they will come back to life. Most of us, we are seeing here, the Easter gods, because again, the Pasuk says that literally they were sprouted forth from the sea, and that was the Yushalayim, like the grass comes out of the earth. So, once again, this Pasuk is actually not quoted in our previous conversations, but go back to both these Pasuk. Both these Pasuk come together. Right? So I know that they will come back to life. So what's the Shiloh? Ella, you should only argument over not the shade of it. Fascinating. When the dead come back to life, do they come back unclothed or do they come back in their clothing? Incredible. So I don't know. So the answer is back to Cleopatra. Kavachoma Mishika. Kavachoma from a grain of wheat. How so? So the Gemara says, so the Kita, right? The grain is very unclothed. What does that mean? When you plant wheat kernels, when you plant the seed, it's just the seed. There's nothing else but the seed. And yet, Yotza become a revolution. Yet it comes out with many layers of clothing. Now, what does that mean, many layers of clothing? What it means is, again, the kernel itself it has many layers. It has a husk, it has different things on top of it. So you see, when you're again, just like the seed goes into the earth unclothed, ultimately, again, it comes out with many layers. So the Gemara says, Tzakikim Shem Parim B'Gatzon Philip Shem, but Tzakikim ultimately again, who are buried with their clothing, Allah has covered the Kaaba. Now, Tzadik ultimately again is buried now, not just clothing, but Tzakikim, but shrouds. So the Tzadik is buried with clothing, all the more so, he will come out clothed as well. So listen, it's such a fancy. First of all, you can just establish it's like a fascination question. But then again, I believe in resurrection of the dead. How exactly does this work? When the dead come out of the grave, what is unclothed, clothed? So what's interesting also is it could very well be clothing. Clothing is for ultimately metaphor for accomplishments. Right? Because the holy students are definitely the body. The Shomar says in Mishnah, at all times let your clothing be light. Let your clothing be light. So clothing represents accomplishment. So it could very well be the pastor is asking us to find. When is Tchias HaMitzvah? How do you come back? How are you reborn? Are you reborn like tabula rasa, right, naked, unclothed, like you guys, you manage like a new baby being born to cover, or is your resurrected life somehow a continuity of your previous life? Are you born with your clothing? In other words, do you come back? And again, I have my nice clothing. I have no success. So again, it's a fascinating question. Is resurrection a continuation of my previous life? Do I come back with my clothing? Or again, am I born unclothed? Is it a brand new life? Which from your response, resurrected life is a continuity of previous life. So I want to say it's so fascinating because what that does is it really pushes us to maximize the life we have here in this world. Because the way I live here not only protects me in this world, not only protects me what we'll call all of Haba, which is the place where I go after I die, but it even impacts me in resurrected life as well. Everything I do in this world follows me in the multiple stages and iterations of my life. It's such a profound Gemara. I'm going to make use of whatever we're going to go. So the Caesar we're going to go. Caesar we're going to go. Amrisu Dushakti Chayim. I heard that you guys say that the dead come back to life. Okay, so it's interesting. So as opposed to Cleopatra, who believe in the Tchias HaMitzvah, but just has some detailed questions about it, so you see already that Caesar doesn't believe it. Caesar says, I don't understand. You guys say, you guys say, the Shakti Chayim, then we'll come back to life. I don't say how that works. The dead ultimately again become dust. Right? The dust can't come back to life. Dust can't come back to life. So the Gemara says, top of Taik 91a. Amru Garten, Shafke Anamahaja. So again, these things are fascinating. So the daughter of the Caesar said something to Gamliel, I got this, right? She wanted to answer this particular question. Okay. So she says, so Anamahaja. Second line, on the Alpha base 91a, second line. You know, there are two people, two fashioners, cleaners and stuff. Right? How do we people? Yesh Be'ir, Right? That she says of it. They create utensils. So people create utensils. Every Yosef and Amai, one creates utensils from water, and one creates utensils from clay. So I use them in the Mishnah to eat better. Which is your function, of course, Rabbi, Yosef and Amai. Of course, again, it's a much greater feat to eat utensils from water than it is to create from clay. אמרי מן המים, איזה משובח, זה שיש מן המים, אמרי ששפט, מן המים נצטער, מן הטיפול כלשהו, so Hashem fashions people from water. Now what is that in water? It's a legend with the proper food, which creates baby. What we create human life from literally mind from water, and allows us to come of the thermal, we can create it from depths. In other words, right, it's a greater feat to create utensils from water than it is from clay. And everyone creates utensils from clay. Because Thompson goes ahead and creates life, ultimately again from water, certainly go ahead and create life from clay, from dirt as well. Very short time. California creates this is beautiful. You can create a California from the creation of Christ. Creation of us, it's fascinating. Not please focus, Sha'ab Allah, the Ruach, cross-second how is glass made? With low glass. The glass is made through the breath of man. And Nishbaru Yishlan Takana. And even if glass breaks, you can go over down and you can refashion it. Man who is made with the breath of Hashem. Right? Hashem who life into us. Allah has come with us. All the more so, then it breaks, so to speak. It dies, and it is put back together. Amar Yahu, Nino Rabbi Yamma. So it's like also just like there's so much to say on each of these words, because each of these statements are tremendously metaphors for just the different aspects of our lives. But again, I underline this, so we'll come back to it at some point. So there was a particular non-believer here. He said to Rabbi Yamma, you say the Shakri Chai, you guys say that the dead come back to life. You want to say, so the dead turns to dust. And how can dust constantly come back to life? All right, I'm sure the Mashal. Let me give you a Mashal. I'll give you a Mashal. The Melech Basar Madam, I'll give you a Mashal. There was once a human being, and the human being said to its servants, before we need to call to the Golem, and Malcolm Shane Mine Basa. Go and build me a palace. Tell me what problem. There's no water, there's no dirt in place, but I need you to build a palace. I need you to figure it out. All food fun also. The Baruch Hashem, the subjects with you have to go to King of your palace. The young and duffel. Come a little sometime later, the palace fell down. Amalan. So the king says to the subjects, Hazard, you also the Makam Shigish Afal. I want you to rebuild the palace. But this time I want you to build in the place where there is water and there is dirt. On the low, any of your home. Subjects said, we can't do it. We're unable to do it. So Kalasalayim. King got very independent. The Malcolm Shemaim Ba'afar things beneath him. Actually, Shemaim Ba'afar Allah has come and come. So the king said, I understand. You were able to build a palace when there was no water and dirt. You were able to pull it off. Now that I'm giving you water and dirt, you can't pull it off. So instead, what's the show? So it's probably creates man from nothing. It's not going to be world from nothing. So if Hashem doesn't create from nothing, even a man can go back into dirt. Dirt is still something. So if you can create from nothing, you're certainly going to create from something. That would answer about two essays. And if you don't believe that this idea of something turning into something else, say a little bit, let's go out into the valley. See this particular type of rodent. So let's get this man stress for example about what they're talking about, what Chazal is talking about here, this rodent. That apparently is half flesh and half earth. The next day, ultimately, again, it becomes completely flesh. So you see the ability of things to transform from earth into flesh. Shema Kamar is memorable, but maybe it'll take a lot of time for this rodent to have this transformation. All of the hard work was the mountain, first white line. And It seems a particular mountain that on this stage is only one field. Most remember again, Filazon is that feature from which the Tchilas is created. So you go up on a mountain, there's one Filazon. The Machar Yardu Yisham in the next stage of rain, then it's smelling Kulo Chazbonos, Chilzonos. Ultimately, the mountain will be filled with Filazons. So again, the idea over here is, Number one,